The Ullian High Council sentenced Boron to a horrific death for the crime of loving a human. But no matter how many beasts they sent to tear her apart, the human fleet would make sure every last one of those corrupt alien bastards paid the price 100 times over. Boron stumbled through the dense purple jungle of planet Ulios, her iridescent scales dulled with dirt and scratches, her 4 arms clutching a small communication device to her chest. Behind her, the predatory howls of her own species echoed through the twisted alien trees. They had exiled her here to Deathtrap Island for daring to expose their corruption, and now they hunted her. She frantically pushed buttons on the communicator, trying to send a distress signal to her human boyfriend Jesse Ramos, before it was too late. Her clawed foot caught on a gnarled root, and she crashed face first into the loamy soil, the device tumbling from her hands. It hit a rock with a sickening crack, shooting sparks before the screen went dark, just like her hope. Only a day before, Boron had stood tall and proud before the High Council, presenting damning evidence of their crimes and schemes, coercion and exploitation of the Ullian people. She thought they would listen to reason. How naive she had been. "Silence, traitor!" bellowed Councillor Zix, his towering form rippling with jet-black scales. "Your human lover has poisoned your mind against your own kind. You're not fit to call yourself Ullian." Armored guards had grabbed Boron roughly, pulling her arms behind her back until her joints screamed. Zix smirked, baring gleaming fangs. "Let's see how long you survive on Deathtrap Island without your precious humans, He waved a clawed hand. "Take her away and dump her where the stalkers roam." Now here Boron was, bleeding and alone as the jungle came alive with predatory snarls and the snapping of branches under 8 clawed legs. A pack of stalkers emerged from the purple underbrush, their segmented bodies pulsing, razor fangs dripping with venom. So this was how it ended. But before the beasts could pounce, a deafening roar split the sky above. Boron looked up to see a massive human battlecruiser descending through the atmosphere in all its gunmetal glory, flanked by dozens of smaller assault ships. Salvation. The stalkers shrieked and scattered in sheer terror as the human fleet opened fire, unleashing a storm of projectiles and beams that shredded the jungle canopy and incinerated the beasts where they stood. Wind buffeted Boron as a dropship swooped low overhead, touching down in the clearing blasted out just meters from where she crouched. The hatch hissed open, and there, striding out through the steam in midnight black-powered armor, was Jesse Ramos, her lover, her savior. He flashed her a roguish grin as he extended an armored hand to her. "Sorry I'm late, babe. Had to gather the fleet. Let's get you out of here. We've got a council to burn." Jesse gripped Boron's hand tightly as he helped her up the ramp into the waiting dropship. The hatch sealed behind them with a hiss as the ship lifted off, engines roaring. Boron collapsed into a jump seat, her energy drained from her harrowing ordeal on the planet below. Jesse knelt beside her, his brow furrowed with concern as he looked her over for serious injuries. The dropship shuddered as it punched through the atmosphere, the titanium hull groaning. Boron glanced out a porthole to see the Maverick growing larger, the mighty human battlecruiser overflowing with gun turrets and missile bays, a far cry from the sleek, crystalline ships of her own people. Minutes later, the dropship slid into a cavernous hangar bay. The hatch opened, and Jesse led Boron out into the bustle of activity, flight crews rushing to refuel and rearm attack craft. Boron flinched as a power loader stomped by, carrying a rack of missiles. "Welcome to the Maverick," Jesse said with a grin. "Let me introduce you to the crew." He guided her through the labyrinthine corridors of the warship, past exposed piping and sparking conduits. They emerged onto the bridge, a cavernous space lined with control stations. Humans in mismatched uniforms bent over hollow displays and chattered into headsets. "Captain on deck!" barked a grizzled man with close-cropped grey hair and cybernetic eyes that glowed an eerie red. The crew snapped to attention. "At ease," Jesse said. "I want you all to meet Boron. She's the reason we're here. Boron, this is my XO, Slade. Best damn soldier I've ever served with." Slade sized up Boron, his artificial eyes whirring as they focused. "Welcome aboard, ma'am. Hell of a thing you did back there, standing up to your own government. Boron dipped her head, unused to such praise from a human. I only did what was right. Slade frowned, studying a sensor readout. Captain, we've got incoming. A dozen Ulian warships just dropped out of FTL on the edge of the system. They're not responding to hails. Battle stations! Jesse ordered, his face hardening. Alarm klaxons blared throughout the ship as the crew scrambled to their posts. Jesse turned to Boron, his expression softening. Looks like your people want a fight. You up for this? Boron straightened, pushing aside her exhaustion. I'm with you, Jesse. It's time my people answered for their crimes. Jesse flashed her a quick smile before striding to the central command chair, his boots ringing on the deck. He punched a button on the armrest. All hands, this is the captain. We've got hostile Ulian ships inbound. Time to show them what human ingenuity can do. Boron stepped to his side as he brought up a holodisplay of the approaching fleet. She studied it, her heart's racing. Councillor Zix is making his move. He's staged a coup, seized control of the government and military. He's framed me as a human collaborator to justify this attack. The deck shuddered beneath their feet as the first salvo of Ulian weapons impacted the Maverick's shields. Damage alarms wailed. Jesse's eyes gleamed as his fingers flew over the controls. They want to dance? Let's dance. He smirked at Boron. Time to show your people what my ship can really do. He stabbed a button, and a low hum built throughout the Maverick as a hidden weapons array charged up. On the console, 2 of the Ulian cruisers grew larger as targeting locks engaged. Firing quantum torpedoes, Jesse called out. Let's see how they like a taste of human R&D. The Maverick shuddered as a barrage of glowing blue projectiles erupted from her forward tubes, lancing out across space. They slammed into the Ulian ships, punching through their shields in flashes of blinding light. The cruisers listed to the side, belching atmosphere and debris. 2 hostiles disabled, Slade reported with a vicious grin. The rest are regrouping. Orders? Before Jesse could reply, a harsh buzz sounded from the comm station. Slade hurried over, studying the readout. He blanched. Sir, priority message from Earth. It's Admiral Chen. Jesse sighed. Put him through. Ramos, you reckless idiot, Chen snapped. What the hell do you think you're doing? You've violated at least a dozen treaties and accords. The Ulians are threatening full-scale war unless we hand you over to them immediately. Jesse met Chen's furious gaze without flinching. With respect, Admiral, they fired on us first. And Boron has proof of deep corruption in their government. This isn't what it seems. Chen's eyes flicked to Boron before returning to Jesse, his expression stony. You have 1 hour, Ramos. 1 hour to present your case before the Galactic Council. After that, I can't protect you anymore. His shoulders slumped slightly. I'm trusting you. Don't make me regret it. The hologram winked out, leaving a ringing silence. The deck shuddered again as the Ulian ships regrouped for another assault. Jesse turned to Boron, his eyes alight with that reckless drive she adored. You heard the man. 1 hour to face the music. He offered her his hand. You ready for this? Boron clasped his hand, the warmth of his skin a comfort. She met his gaze, her own eyes hard as diamonds. I'm ready. Let's finish this. The Maverick dove back into the fray, all guns blazing, as Jesse and Boron hurtled toward a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The Maverick shuddered as Jesse engaged the experimental quantum drive. The stars stretched and blurred around them, the fabric of space-time twisting. In a flash of light, they vanished from the Ulian system. Seconds later, they reappeared on the outskirts of the Galactic Council's territory. The massive ring-shaped space station loomed before them, glittering with countless lights. Ships of every configuration flitted between its docking spires like insects. Jesse spun to face his ragtag crew, a fierce light in his eyes. He pointed to the comms officer. Patch me through to the entire fleet. The officer nodded, fingers flying over her console. Jesse picked up a mic, his voice booming through the ship. The bridge erupted into activity as the crew hastened to obey. Data streams poured out of the Maverick's transmitters, racing toward the unsuspecting galaxy. Boron watched in awe, her heart swelling with pride and affection for this human who fought so fiercely for what was right, for her. The comms officer frowned at her readouts. "Sir, we're being hailed by the station. They've locked a tractor beam onto us." Jessie smirked. "Guess they rolled out the welcome mat. Helm, cut the engines, let 'em pull us in." The Maverick shuddered as the tractor beam engulfed it, inexorably drawing it toward one of the station's cavernous docking bays. As the ship settled onto the deck with a clang, a cadre of stern-faced security drones surrounded it, weapons at the ready. Jessie turned to Boron, extending a hand. "Showtime, babe. Let's go rattle some cages." Together, they strode down the ramp into the waiting arms of the Council's enforcers. The drones escorted them through labyrinthine corridors deep into the heart of the station. Boron's skin crawled at the cold, impersonal efficiency of it all, so different from the earthy chaos of the Maverick. At last, they arrived at a pair of towering double doors emblazoned with the Council's crest. The doors swung open, and the drones ushered them inside. The Council chamber was in an uproar. Representatives from a dozen worlds argued and shouted, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling. Hovering holodisplays flashed with agitated text. In the center of the storm stood Admiral Chen, his uniform immaculate, his bearing composed. He raised his hands for silence. "Esteemed councillors, this unilateral action by the humans was regrettable, but necessary in light of the evidence that has been presented to us. Corruption of this scale cannot be ignored, no matter the source." "Lies!" A familiar voice crackled across the room. Boron looked up to see a hologram of Zix materialize above the council floor, his black scales glinting malevolently. "This so-called evidence is nothing but a fabrication by the human aggressors and their Ulian puppet." He stabbed a clawed finger at Jessie. "I demand this criminal be remanded to our custody immediately to face justice for his actions." Cries of assent and protest alike swelled from the assembled councillors. Jessie stood firm, his eyes fixed on Zix's translucent form. Boron stepped forward, drawing herself up to her full height. The chamber lights played over her iridescent scales, throwing patterns like rippling water. "If the evidence is false, then you have nothing to fear from it, Councillor Zix." Her voice rang out clear and strong. With a wave of her hand, she threw documents up onto the holodisplays. Classified files, images, recordings, all damning Zix's crimes. "The only fabrications here are yours. Here is the proof of your misdeeds, laid bare for all to see." Gasps and murmurs filled the room as the councillors took in the staggering depth of Zix's corruption. The Ulian sputtered and hissed, but no one paid him any heed now. Suddenly alarms blared, red lights pulsing. Admiral Chen whirled to face a holodisplay showing the space around the station. Boron's blood ran cold. A massive Ulian battle fleet had dropped out of FTL, the ugly angular ships surrounding the station on all sides. Zix's hologram smiled a predator's smile. "Enough of this farce. Surrender the human and the traitor, or we open fire. You have 1 minute to comply." With that, his image winked out, leaving stunned silence in its wake. Jessie's hand found Boron's, fingers intertwining. He leaned close, his breath hot against her ear. "I've got a plan, but you're not going to like it." He murmured something in a language she didn't recognize into a hidden communicator in his sleeve. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, in flashes of impossible blue light, a fleet of battered human ships tore their way out of quantum tunnels, materializing on the council station's flanks. Boron recognized the Paladin, the Hellfire, the Titan's Fury, the Maverick's sister ships. Jessie squeezed her hand as the two fleets hung in space, staring each other down like gunslingers. The Ulian's cannons thrummed as they charged to full power. The human ship's point defense grids crackled to life. "Do it," she whispered. Jessie raised his voice, the words echoing through the council chamber and across the stars themselves. "This is Captain Jessie Ramos to all ships. Hold your fire. Repeat, hold your fire. The time for fighting is over. It's time for the truth." And with that, the veil was lifted, and the future of the galaxy would be forever altered. The council chamber erupted into chaos as Jesse tapped a hidden device on his wrist. Every screen in the room flickered to life, displaying classified Ulian military plans. Gasps and shouts filled the air as the council members absorbed the shocking information detailing an imminent invasion of human space. Azix's hologram stuttered and glitched, his usual composure crumbling. "Lies, human forgeries," he sputtered, his voice cracking with desperation. Boron stepped forward, her iridescent scales shimmering under the harsh chamber lights. "I can prove these are genuine," she said, her voice steady and clear. "The encryption key is based on Ulian biorhythms. Only a high-ranking Ulian could have accessed this data." She placed her hand on a nearby console, her alien biology interfacing directly with the technology. The files unlocked, cascading across the screens with even more damning evidence. Outside the station, Jesse's ragtag fleet executed a daring maneuver. Instead of engaging the Ulian ships, they formed a protective barrier around the station, their mismatched hulls creating a patchwork shield. The comms crackled to life, Slade's gruff voice filling the chamber. "Captain, we've got company. 3 more fleets just dropped out of FTL, Zentari, Krell, and, holy shit, the Arcturus Collective." The council chamber descended into pandemonium. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding explanations and action. Admiral Chen turned to Jesse, his weathered face a mix of anger and grudging respect. "What the hell did you do, Ramos?" Jesse grinned, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Called in some favors. Turns out humans aren't the only ones the Ulians have been plotting against." The Galactic Council President, a towering crystalline being, raised their arms for silence. Light refracted through their body, casting rainbow patterns across the chamber floor. "In light of this evidence, I propose an emergency vote. We must decide whether to sanction the Ulian government and potentially remove them from the council." As the vote began, Zix's hologram flickered and vanished. Alarms blared throughout the station, red warning lights pulsing in sync with the wailing sirens. A technician's panicked voice cut through the noise. "The Ulian fleet is powering up weapons. They're targeting the station." Jesse locked eyes with Boron, his expression grim. "Time for Plan B," he said, reaching for his communicator. His fingers flew over the device, sending out a coded message to his waiting fleet. Jesse's fingers flew over his communicator, his voice sharp and decisive, as he issued rapid-fire orders to his fleet. The holographic battle map in the council chamber crackled to life, displaying the intricate dance of ships in real time. Jesse pulled a small device from his pocket and tossed it onto the chamber floor. It bounced once before projecting an expanded battle map. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice tinged with grim satisfaction, "welcome to Operation Checkmate." On the map, a swarm of small, fast-moving objects erupted from Jesse's ships, streaking towards the Ulian fleet like a cloud of angry insects. Boron's eyes widened in recognition. "Quantum disruptors," she gasped. "But those are illegal under galactic law." The tiny projectiles slammed into the Ulian ships. Energy shields flickered and failed, leaving the vessels exposed and vulnerable. Admiral Chen's face contorted with rage. He barked into his own communicator. "This is Admiral Chen. All human ships stand down immediately. That's an order." Jesse's crews ignored the command. The battle raged on unabated. The Zentari, Krell, and Arcturus fleets, caught off guard by the sudden offensive, scrambled to reposition. Their formations broke apart, ships veering wildly to avoid collision. In the chaos, a Ulian destroyer broke formation. It accelerated, making a beeline for the station. Its weapons ports glowed ominously as they charged, preparing to fire. Jesse's hand closed around Boron's wrist. "Time to go," he said, already moving. He sprinted for the exit, dragging Boron along. Over his shoulder he shouted, "If anyone wants to live, follow us." Half the council members rushed after them, robes flapping as they ran. The others remained frozen in shock, unable to process the rapid turn of events. As they raced through the station's corridors, The artificial gravity began to fail. Jesse and Boron's steps became uneven, each stride threatening to send them floating off the floor. Jesse's communicator crackled to life. Slade's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Captain, you're not going to believe this. We're detecting quantum fluctuations inside the Ullian ships. They're disappearing." Jesse skidded to a halt, nearly causing a pileup of panicked diplomats behind him. He pulled Boron close, steadying them both as they floated inches above the floor. "What do you mean, disappearing?" Back in the abandoned council chamber, the battle map told the story. Ullian ships were vanishing one by one, replaced by a growing, swirling vortex of energy. The maelstrom of quantum instability grew with each passing second, threatening to engulf everything in its path. As Jesse and Boron exchanged worried glances, the station shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared, their urgent wails echoing through the corridors. The quantum vortex was expanding, and they were directly in its path. Jesse's hand closed around Boron's wrist as he yanked her towards a hidden panel in the corridor wall. The station shuddered violently, sending several diplomats sprawling. Jesse slammed his palm against the panel, revealing a narrow passageway. "This way," he shouted, ushering the group into the secret corridor. "Move your asses!" They sprinted through the dim passage, Jesse in the lead with Boron close behind. The diplomats stumbled after them, robes tangling around their legs. At last, they burst into a small circular chamber. A sleek shuttle sat in the center, its silver hull gleaming under harsh emergency lighting. Jesse punched a code into the shuttle's airlock. The door hissed open. "Everyone in now!" "I need you to interface with the nav system," he said, sliding into the pilot's seat. "Your physiology should let you process the data faster than I can." Boron nodded, placing her hands on the glowing control panel. Her iridescent scales rippled as she connected with the shuttle's systems, streams of data flooding her mind. The station rocked again. Warning klaxons blared through the docking bay as the shields began to fail. Jesse fired up the engines, the shuttle humming to life beneath them. "Hang on to something," he yelled. The docking bay doors slid open, revealing the chaos beyond. Jesse gunned the engines, launching them into the maelstrom of battle. Debris pelted the hull as they cleared the station, alarms shrieking warnings of incoming fire. Boron's mind worked in overdrive, feeding Jesse real-time data on ship positions and trajectories. He wove through the battlefield, narrowly avoiding collisions with drifting wreckage and stray weapons fire. On the main viewer, a horrifying sight unfolded. Ullian ships were being dragged towards a growing vortex of swirling energy, vanishing into its maw. "What did you do, Jesse?" Boron asked, her voice wavering between fear and awe. Jesse's teeth clenched. "Remember that experimental tech we'd acquired from the Arcturus Collective? Turns out it creates localized wormholes. I didn't expect this, though." The comm system crackled to life, and a familiar voice filled the shuttle. "This is High Counselor Zix. Bow before the might of the new Ullian Empire." Before anyone could react, the dreadnought fired. A beam of pure quantum energy lanced out, slicing through 3 of Jesse's ships like they were made of paper. The remaining vessels scattered, but the dreadnought gave chase, seeming to teleport short distances as it moved. Alarms blared throughout the shuttle. The quantum wake from the dreadnought's weapons washed over them, destabilizing their engines. "We're going down," Boron yelled, fighting to maintain her connection with the nav systems. The shuttle spun wildly, plummeting towards a nearby planet. Jesse wrestled with the controls, sweat beading on his forehead. "It's a barren world," he grunted, reading the sensor data. "Toxic atmosphere. We can't survive out there." As they entered the atmosphere, Jesse's eyes locked onto a structure on the planet's surface. A massive dome glinted in the alien sun. "There," he shouted, "aim for that outpost." Boron poured all her concentration into guiding their descent. The shuttle screamed through the air, the dome growing larger by the second. With a deafening crash, they smashed through the structure's outer shell, skidding to a halt in what appeared to be an alien garden. For a moment all was silent. Then Jesse stirred, shaking his head to clear it. He turned to Boron, relief flooding through him as he saw her moving. "You okay?" he asked, already unbuckling his harness. Boron nodded, her scales shifting colors as she disconnected from the shuttle's systems. "The others?" Jesse made his way to the passenger compartment, helping the shaken diplomats to their feet. One by one they stumbled out of the wreckage, coughing in the dust-filled air. Through the jagged hole in the dome above them, they could see the quantum battle still raging in the sky. The massive Ullian dreadnought loomed ominously, dwarfing the other ships as it continued its relentless assault. Jesse's hand found Boron's, their fingers intertwining as they stared up at the chaos they'd unleashed. The future of the stars hung in the balance, and they were stranded on an alien world with no way to intervene. Jesse squeezed her hand, his mind already racing for a solution. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Jesse's wrist computer beeped softly as he scanned the alien garden. He frowned at the readout, his brow furrowing. Oxygen levels are holding steady, but there's some radiation here I've never encountered before. Stay alert, everyone. Boron crouched next to a cluster of exotic plants, her iridescent scales shifting colors as she examined the foliage. Her eyes widened in recognition. These species, they're extinct on my homeworld. This must be an old Ullian research station. As if triggered by her words, holographic projectors flickered to life around them. Ghostly blue figures of Ullian scientists materialized, moving silently through the garden. One passed right through a startled diplomat, its form rippling like water. The reptilian Krell diplomat, Sark, let out a surprised hiss. His forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "A time dilation effect," he said, voice low and rasping. "We're witnessing echoes of the past." Before anyone could respond, Jesse's communicator crackled to life. Slade's voice came through, distorted and barely audible. "Captain, Zix's dreadnought, tearing through our defenses and need reinforcements." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving only static. Jesse's eyebrows furrowed as he stared at the device. Outside the dome, the quantum battle raged on. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist, the very fabric of space bending in unnatural ways. Ships phased in and out of existence, leaving ghostly afterimages in their wake. Boron's sharp eyes caught movement at the far end of the garden. "There," she exclaimed, pointing to a sealed door. "That might lead to a control room." The group approached cautiously. As they neared, the door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a dimly lit corridor beyond. Jesse drew his sidearm, its weight familiar in his hand. They navigated through winding corridors filled with strange, pulsating machinery. Tubes of glowing energy snaked along the walls, throbbing in an unsettling rhythm. The air grew thick with an acrid ozone smell. Finally, they emerged into a vast circular chamber. At its center stood a massive console covered in alien symbols. Boron rushed forward, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. "This is incredible," she breathed, eyes wide with excitement. "It's not just a research station, it's a quantum observatory. The Ullians were studying rifts in space-time." A holographic model of the galaxy sprang to life above the console. Pulsing lines of energy crisscrossed the star map, forming a complex web of interconnected pathways. Jesse leaned in, studying the display. He pointed to a massive confluence of energy near the center. "That's where we just were. The battle must be affecting these rift things." Boron's expression grew grim as she processed the data. If this is accurate, the quantum weapon Zix is using could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. As if to punctuate her words, the station shuddered violently. Through the chamber's windows they watched fragments of ships and debris rain down from the sky. Some of the pieces phased in and out of existence, leaving ghostly trails in their wake. Jesse ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. "We need to find a way to stop Zix and stabilize these rifts," he said, voice tight with urgency, "or there won't be a galaxy left to save." Boron nodded, a spark of willpower in her eyes. "I think I know how, but we'll need to reactivate this station's main power core." She paused, head tilting as she listened intently. and we're not alone down here." As if in response to her words, inhuman shrieks echoed through the corridors. The sound grew closer with each passing second, a cacophony of alien voices that sent chills down their spines. Jesse sprang into action, his eyes scanning the group of terrified diplomats. He pulled energy pistols from concealed holsters and tossed them to those with steady hands. Boron's fingers danced across a nearby console, her iridescent scales rippling with concentration. Her eyes widened as data streamed across the screen. "Jesse," she called out, her voice tight with urgency. They're not entirely alive. The sensors show quantum fluctuations. They exist partially outside our reality." The words had barely left her mouth when the first creature phased through the solid metal wall. Its form flickered and pulsed, a nightmarish fusion of Ulian biology and alien machinery. Tendrils of energy crackled along its misshapen limbs as it lurched towards them. Jesse fired, the energy bolt from his pistol passing harmlessly through the creature's shifting form. "Shit!" he cursed, adjusting his aim and firing again with the same result. A rasping voice cut through the chaos. Sark, the Krell diplomat, stepped forward. His reptilian eyes narrowed in concentration. He twisted a dial on his weapon, the muzzle glowing with a strange, pulsating light. "Like this," he hissed, his forked tongue flicking out. He fired a burst of modulated energy that struck the creature's core, the being's form destabilized, its quantum field collapsing in on itself until it dissolved into nothingness. "Modulating energy frequency," Sark explained, his scales rippling. "Aim for their core mass." Jesse nodded sharply, adjusting his own weapon. "You heard the lizard. Tune your weapons and aim center mass." More creatures poured through the walls, their unearthly shrieks filling the air. The diplomats fought with surprising ferocity, desperation lending strength to their actions. Energy bolts lit up the corridor as they battled their way forward. "This way," Boron called out, gesturing down a twisting passageway. "The power core is our only chance." They pushed onward, Jesse and Sark taking point, while Boron guided them through the labyrinthine corridors. Phase creatures materialized around every corner, their attacks growing more frenzied with each passing moment. At last they burst into a massive chamber. A colossal crystalline structure dominated the center, pulsing with dormant energy. Boron raced to a nearby control panel, her forearms a blur of motion as she worked the alien controls. "I need time," she shouted over the din of battle. "The core needs to be reactivated and stabilized." Jesse nodded grimly, organizing the others into a defensive perimeter around Boron and the crystal. "Hold the line!" he roared, his voice carrying over the sounds of combat. "Whatever happens, protect that core." The phase creatures attacked in relentless waves, each assault more desperate than the last. The air crackled with modulated energy bolts as the defenders fought for their lives. Slowly, the crystalline structure began to glow brighter, arcs of energy lashing out and scorching the chamber walls. A violent tremor suddenly rocked the station, nearly throwing them off their feet. Jesse's eyes darted to a nearby viewport, his blood running cold at the sight that greeted him. Zix's massive dreadnought was descending through the planet's atmosphere, its weapons glowing with barely contained power. "He must have detected the power spike," Jesse growled, firing another burst at an advancing creature. "Boron, we're out of time." Boron's eyes met his for a split second, understanding passing between them. Without hesitation, she slammed her hand onto the final control. The universe seemed to hold its breath for a heartbeat. Then, the crystalline core erupted with blinding light. A shockwave of pure energy pulsed outward, rippling through reality itself. The phase creatures disintegrated instantly, their quantum fields shattered by the wave. Through the viewport, Jesse watched as the dreadnought's weapons flickered and died, the massive ship suddenly powerless in the face of the energy surge. But the pulse didn't stop there. It continued expanding, engulfing the planet, and streaking out into the depths of space. As the light faded, Jessie stumbled to Boron's side, helping her to her feet. Her scales shimmered with exhaustion, her alien eyes unfocused. Boron looked at him, fear and wonder warring in her gaze. "I've reactivated the quantum observatory," she said, her voice trembling. "The pulse should stabilize the rifts, but, Jesse, I think I just sent a signal to every quantum-sensitive being in the galaxy." Before Jesse could respond, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Massive ships began appearing in orbit, their design unlike anything he had ever seen. Ancient and impossibly advanced, they dwarfed even Zix's dreadnought. A voice boomed through the station, so powerful it seemed to vibrate in their very bones. "Children of the younger races, your meddling ends now. The precursors have returned." Jesse's grip tightened on Boron's hand as they stared at the impossible fleet above them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Their blinding light engulfed Jesse, Boron, and the diplomats. When it faded, they found themselves standing on the command deck of a precursor vessel. The quantum observatory station hung suspended in space, caught in the grip of a pulsating tractor beam. Jesse's eyes darted around the alien bridge. The walls twisted at impossible angles, corridors bending back on themselves in ways that defied Euclidean geometry. He took a step forward and stumbled as the floor seemed to shift beneath him. Boron steadied him, her iridescent scales shimmering in the strange light. "Careful," she whispered. "The physics here. It's unlike anything I've ever encountered." Before Jesse could respond, a holographic figure materialized before them. Its form rippled and shifted, cycling through a dizzying array of alien species. One moment it resembled a towering insectoid, the next a being of pure energy, then a creature with too many limbs to count. The entity's voice reverberated through their minds, bypassing their ears entirely. "Your actions have awakened us from our millennia-long slumber." Jesse opened his mouth to speak, but the hologram continued. "The quantum weapons you wield threaten the very fabric of reality. We cannot allow this to continue." Through the viewport, Jesse watched as the precursor fleet effortlessly disabled both Zix's dreadnought and the remaining ships of his own armada. Energy fields enveloped the vessels, rendering them motionless. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. A being composed of swirling light approached the hologram. "Sovereign," it reported, its voice a symphony of harmonics. "We've detected a massive quantum surge from the planet below. Something is emerging from a dormant rift." The viewscreen flickered to life, revealing a nightmarish sight. A colossal entity rose from the planet's surface, its form defying description. Massive tentacles phased in and out of reality, leaving ghostly after-images in their wake. Its body seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, parts of it visible only as mind-bending geometries that hurt to look at directly. The precursor sovereign's form flickered rapidly, its voice tinged with genuine fear. "Impossible! A quantum leviathan! Its awakening will tear this sector apart." Jesse stepped forward, his heart racing but his voice steady. "We've fought beings like this before. Let us help." The sovereign's ever-shifting gaze fixed on Jesse. For a moment that stretched into eternity, it studied him. Then it nodded. "Very well. We shall combine our knowledge with your unconventional tactics." The hologram gestured, and reality twisted around Jesse once more. He blinked, finding himself back on the familiar bridge of the Maverick. Boron materialized beside him, her four hands instinctively reaching for nearby consoles. Jesse's eyes widened as he took in the ship's systems. Precursor technology pulsed and hummed, integrated seamlessly with the Maverick's existing hardware. Displays showed readouts in an alien language that somehow made perfect sense to him. Slade grinned from his station, his fingers dancing over controls that hadn't existed moments before. "Orders, Captain." Jesse's gaze locked onto the view screen, where the quantum leviathan loomed ever larger. Its vast bulk distorted the very stars around it, reality fraying at the edges of its impossible form. He squared his shoulders, mind already racing with possibilities afforded by their new precursor upgrades. "Prepare for battle," Jesse commanded, his voice carrying the weight of galaxies. "It's time to save reality itself." Jesse's fingers flew across the Maverick's control panel, his eyes darting between holographic displays as he issued rapid-fire commands to his fleet. "Form up! Pentagonal formation now!" The ragtag assortment of ships fell into position around the Maverick, their newly integrated precursor tech humming with untapped power. Jesse felt the ship vibrate beneath his feet as they rocketed towards the monstrous form of the quantum Leviathan. Boron's forearms worked in perfect synchronization, her iridescent scales shimmering as she interfaced with the alien technology. Her eyes widened as data streamed across her consciousness. "Jesse?" she called out, her voice tight with urgency. "I'm detecting fluctuations in the Leviathan's quantum field, weak points we can exploit." Jesse nodded sharply. "Good work. How do we hit it?" "Simultaneous strikes," Boron replied, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "If we coordinate our attacks, we might destabilize its entire structure." Without hesitation, Jesse opened a channel to his captains. "Listen up, we've got one shot at this. Target the coordinates Boron's sending you. Fire on my mark, not a second before or after. Got it?" The quantum Leviathan loomed before them, its impossible form twisting reality around it. Suddenly it lashed out. Tentacles of pure energy whipped through space, each strike tearing holes in the fabric of existence. "Evasive maneuvers!" Jesse shouted, gripping his chair as the Maverick lurched to the side. They narrowly avoided a direct hit, but the quantum backlash slammed into their shields. The ship shuddered violently but held together. Slade's hands flew across the weapons console, his face a mask of concentration. "Ready to fire, Captain," he called out. "On my mark," Jesse replied, his eyes fixed on the targeting display. 3, 2, 1, fire! The Maverick's weapons blazed to life, joined by synchronized bursts from the rest of the fleet. Energy lanced out, striking the Leviathan's weak points with devastating precision. A sound unlike anything Jesse had ever heard tore through space, the Leviathan's roar of pain echoing across dimensions. The massive entity writhed, its form flickering as the attacks destabilized its quantum structure. Before they could press their advantage, alarms blared throughout the Maverick. Jesse's blood ran cold as he saw Zix's dreadnought break free from the precursor's hold, its main weapon charging with sickening speed. "If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me, human." Zix's voice crackled over the comms, filled with hate and desperation. Time seemed to slow as the dreadnought fired. Jesse braced for impact, knowing their shields couldn't withstand such a blast. But the hit never came. Their precursor ship materialized between them and the energy beam, absorbing the full force of the attack. The ancient vessel's hull glowed white-hot, then imploded in a cataclysmic burst of light and energy. Where the precursor ship had been, a swirling vortex of darkness formed, a localized black hole born from the energy overload. Jesse's momentary relief turned to horror as he watched one of the Leviathan's tentacles wrap around the singularity. With impossible strength, the cosmic horror hurled the black hole towards the planet below. Jesse's mind raced, searching for a solution as he watched certain doom barrel towards billions of innocent lives. Boron's alien eyes widened as she ran the calculations. "Theoretically, yes," she replied, her voice tight, "but it would completely burn out our engines. We'd be stranded out here." Jesse's lips curled into a fierce grin. "Better than being wiped from existence," he said, then turned to his crew. "Do it! Full power to the quantum drive." The Maverick's engines screamed in protest as they pushed far beyond their limits. Space itself seemed to twist around them as a swirling vortex of energy burst from the ship, colliding with the hurtling black hole. The two anomalies clashed in a spectacular display of cosmic forces. Reality bent and warped around them as they fought for dominance. The Maverick shuddered, pouring every ounce of power into the risky move. Through the chaos, Jesse spotted an opening. The Leviathan, distracted by its efforts to control the black hole, had left its core exposed. "All ships," Jesse roared into the comm. "Fire everything you've got at the Leviathan's core now." The combined firepower of the fleet, enhanced by precursor technology, lanced out in a devastating barrage. The attack struck home, and the quantum leviathan's impossible form began to dissolve. But even as it died, the cosmic horror lashed out one final time. Tentacles of pure energy wrapped around the Maverick and several other ships of Jesse's fleet. Jesse had only a moment to lock eyes with Boron, a lifetime of unspoken words passing between them. Then, in a blinding flash that seared itself into the very fabric of space-time, the Leviathan, the Maverick, and half the fleet vanished. Where moments before a titanic battle had raged, now there was only a turbulent mess of quantum energy. The surviving ships stared in stunned silence at the void where their comrades had been, the emptiness of space broken only by the lingering echoes of a battle that had shaken the very foundations of reality. Fasike. The void where the Maverick had vanished erupted with blinding light. Jesse blinked, his vision adjusting to the ethereal glow emanating from his own body. He looked around, seeing his crew similarly transformed. Their forms flickered and phased, adapting to the strange new reality surrounding them. Boron's iridescent scales shimmered with newfound intensity. Her eyes darted rapidly, taking in information invisible to the others. "Jesse," she said, her voice echoing oddly, "I can see everything. Multiple timelines, branching possibilities." Jesse raised his hand, watching as reality warped around it. With a thought, he created a bubble of slowed time around Slade. The cybernetic officer's movements became languid, his voice dropping to a deep bass. "Fascinating," Slade said as he stepped out of the time distortion. His cybernetic eye whirred, recalibrating. "My implants, they've evolved. I can interface with systems across dimensions now." Before Jesse could respond, 3 figures materialized before them. Each wore his face but bore subtle differences. One, scarred and sporting a cybernetic arm, radiated battle-hardened purpose. Another stood tall in diplomatic robes, an air of calm authority about him. "We don't have much time," the battle-scarred Jesse said. "The Nexus is tearing itself apart. We need to split up." The original Jesse nodded, quickly grasping the situation. "Alpha team with me. We're taking the fight to Zix." As if on cue, a massive battleship phased into existence nearby. Swarms of drone fighters poured from its hangars, each pulling alternate versions of themselves from different realities. Jesse's team phased through the chaotic swarm, their new quantum abilities allowing them to slip between realities. They latched onto the hull of Zix's ship, multiphasic plasma cutters burning through the metal. "Stay alert," Jesse warned his team. "This place doesn't play by our rules." They fought their way through the ship's shifting interior, reality bending around them with each step. Suddenly, they found themselves face to face with twisted doppelgangers, versions of themselves loyal to Zix, enhanced with corrupted quantum tech. Jesse's heart raced as he locked eyes with his dark counterpart. The alternate Jesse grinned maliciously, drawing a sword that seemed to cut through the fabric of reality itself. "You don't belong here," the dark Jesse snarled, lunging forward. Jesse ducked, the dimensional blade passing inches above his head. He could feel the air ripple as it tore through space-time. The entire vessel shuddered, beginning to phase between realities. Jesse felt himself being pulled in multiple directions at once, the very atoms of his body threatening to scatter across dimensions. "Hold on!" he shouted to his team, desperately trying to maintain his quantum cohesion as the ship's interior shifted around them. Meanwhile, on crystalline hoverboards that defied conventional physics, the Beta team raced between widening quantum rifts. The battle-scarred Jesse led the charge, his cybernetic arm glowing with energy. The team fired quantum-tethered harpoons into the rift. Energy cables stretched taut as they slowly pulled the cosmic wound closed. Elsewhere, in a realm of pure mathematics, the diplomatic Jesse stood before a swirling vortex of living equations. His voice carried across conceptual space as he addressed the sentient formulas. "We need your help," he pleaded. "Zix threatens not just our reality, but the very foundations of existence. Will you lend us your computational power?" Back on Zix's ship, the original Jesse parried another strike from his dark counterpart. The dimensional sword left trails of fractured reality in its wake. Jesse's team fought their own battles against twisted versions of themselves, the ship's interior continuing to warp and shift around them. "You can't win," the dark Jesse taunted, his blade singing through the air. "This ship, this reality, it's all under Zix's control." Jesse gritted his teeth, focusing on maintaining his quantum cohesion as the vessel phased between realities. He knew that somewhere out there, his other selves were fighting just as hard. The fate of the entire Nexus hung in the balance. Balance. The dark Jesse's blade sliced through the air, leaving a trail of fractured reality in its wake. Jesse ducked and rolled, feeling the fabric of space-time ripple around him. "Now," Jesse shouted. Jesse stood, his footing steady despite the chaotic environment. The corridor before them twisted impossibly, defying Euclidean geometry. Gravity fluctuated wildly. One moment, they were walking on the floor, the next, they were clinging to the ceiling. Boron's iridescent scales pulsed with multidimensional data. Her alien eyes darted back and forth, seeing pathways invisible to the others. "This way," she said, her voice echoing strangely in the warped space. "The core's quantum signature is strongest through here." They pushed forward, their tethers straining against the ship's attempt to phase them out of existence. Jesse created pockets of slowed time around them, giving the team precious seconds to react to the unpredictable shifts in their environment. Meanwhile, in the vast expanse of the Nexus, the Beta team faced a new threat. Massive storms of quantum energy raged around them, threatening to unravel the very fabric of reality. Slade's cybernetic eye whirred as he assessed the situation. "We need to redirect that energy," he said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "If we don't, it'll tear the Nexus apart." Without hesitation, Slade extended his arms. His cybernetic implants glowed, then transformed, extending into a network of quantum lightning rods. The rods pierced through dimensions, creating a web of energy conduits. "Channel the storm through me," Slade shouted over the roar of reality tearing itself apart. "I can use it to seal the rifts." The team worked in perfect synchronization, using their newfound quantum abilities to guide the destructive energy. Slade's body became a conduit, pure cosmic power flowing through him. With each surge, another rift closed, the Nexus slowly stabilizing. In the realm of pure mathematics, the diplomatic Jesse stood before the sentient equations, his mind turning from their revelation. "You're saying Zix isn't just trying to conquer the multiverse?" Jesse asked, struggling to comprehend the implications. "He's trying to solve it?" The equations pulsed in affirmation, unfolding complex proofs in Jesse's mind. Zix's true goal was to reduce all of reality to a single, perfect equation, one that would eliminate uncertainty, choice, and free will across every possible universe. The equations hummed with consideration, probability matrices shifting as they weighed cosmic consequences. Back on Zix's battleship, Jesse's team finally reached the core. The massive chamber pulsed with energy, a quantum computer of impossible complexity spanning multiple dimensions simultaneously. As they prepared to shut it down, reality itself seemed to tear open. A monstrous figure emerged, Zix, but not as they had ever seen him before. Multiple versions of the alien tyrant had merged into a single, horrifying entity. Tentacles of pure probability writhed from his form, each movement threatening to erase Jesse and his team from existence. "Who cannot stop what has already been calculated?" the merged Zix roared, his voice echoing across dimensions. Jesse reacted instinctively, creating overlapping bubbles of altered time around them. Zix's attacks became erratic, the monster confused by the conflicting temporal flows. Boron seized the opportunity, interfacing directly with the quantum core. Her forearms moved in impossible patterns, fingers dancing across interfaces that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. "I'm attempting to override his control," she shouted, her voice strained with effort. Outside the ship, in the vastness of the Nexus, a new threat emerged. The quantum energy released by their battle had awakened ancient, slumbering entities. Massive beings of living starlight rose from the depths of the nexus, their forms resembling constellations given cosmic life. These were the observers, timeless guardians of the boundaries between realities. Their awakening spelled potential doom for all involved, their judgment absolute across all dimensions. As Jesse's team fought for control of the core and Zix's monstrous form, the Gamma team raced to present their case to these cosmic judges. The fate of not just one universe, but all possible realities, hung in the balance. Jesse dodged another of Zix's probability tentacles, feeling reality warp around him. He knew that somewhere out there, his other selves were fighting just as hard. The battle raged across multiple fronts, each team facing challenges beyond mortal comprehension. Boron's interface with the core intensified, the alien's consciousness spanning multiple dimensions as she fought for control. Zix's monstrous form howled in fury, unleashing attacks that threatened to unravel the very fabric of existence. Time seemed to stretch and compress as the battle raged on. Jesse could feel the weight of infinite possibilities pressing down on him, the fate of all realities hanging on the outcome of their. In the realm of pure mathematics, Diplomat Jesse's eyes widened as a realization struck him. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small device that pulsed with quantum energy. Without hesitation, he activated the hidden transmitter, sending waves of data cascading across the multiverse. Countless realities shimmered as the message reached them. In a bustling alien marketplace, a Jesse paused mid-haggle, his eyes glazing over as information flooded his mind. On a distant ice planet, a Boron's tentacles twitched as she received the call. Throughout the multiverse, versions of Jesse, Boron, and their allies snapped to attention, instantly aware of the cosmic threat. Back on Zix's battleship, the monstrous merged form of the tyrant loomed over Jesse. Tentacles of pure probability lashed out, slamming Jesse against the pulsing quantum core. The impact knocked the wind from his lungs, leaving him gasping as Zix's twisted face leered down at him. "Your struggle ends here," Zix snarled, voice echoing across dimensions. Jesse's mind raced, searching for a way out. His eyes darted to the quantum core mere inches from his outstretched hand. In that moment, he knew there was only one option left. With a grunt of effort, Jesse plunged his hand into the swirling mass of quantum energy. Pain lanced through his body as reality itself poured into him. His veins glowed with otherworldly light, skin crackling with power beyond mortal comprehension. Jesse's perception expanded exponentially. He saw probability itself, countless timelines branching and converging before his eyes. With a thought, he could rewrite the very fabric of existence. Boron, witnessing Jesse's transformation, acted swiftly. Her alien mind reached out, forming a psychic link with Jesse's consciousness. The influx of quantum data stabilized, Jesse's newfound power held in check by Boron's steady presence. Zix roared in fury, lashing out with his probability tentacles. Jesse and Boron stood their ground, pushing back with their combined power. The ship groaned and shuddered around them as reality itself bent to their will. Meanwhile, in a pocket dimension that defied conventional physics, Beta Team found themselves in a world where time flowed backwards. Cyborg Jesse's cybernetic eye whirred as it recalibrated, adapting to the reversed flow of causality. "Careful," he warned, his words coming out in reverse. "Move slowly until we adjust." The team quickly learned to fight and communicate in this backward realm. They moved with practiced ease, their actions preceding their thoughts in a dance of reversed cause and effect. Slade, his cybernetic implants glowing with newfound power, discovered he could manipulate the flow of time itself. He reached out, fingers trailing through the air as he rewound damaged sections of the nexus. Reality knitted itself back together, quantum storms dissipating as if they had never existed. But this temporal manipulation did not go unnoticed. From the depths of non-existence, chronoparasites emerged. These time-eating entities swarmed towards Beta Team, drawn by the tantalizing scent of altered timelines. "Incoming!" Slade shouted, his voice echoing strangely in the reversed time flow. Cyborg Jesse assessed the situation in microseconds. With no other options, he made a choice that would change him forever. He overclocked his cybernetic systems, pushing them far beyond their limits. A wave of temporal energy burst from Jesse's body. The chronoparasites froze in place, caught in a bubble of suspended time, but the cost was immediately apparent. Jesse's hair grayed, lines etching themselves into his face, as years of his life ticked away in seconds. In the vast expanse of the multiverse, cosmic observers approached. These ancient entities moved with purpose, their very presence causing ripples in the fabric of reality. As they drew near, entire universes began to blink out of existence. Realities deemed unstable were pruned from the cosmic tree, erased as if they had never been. Gamma Team worked frantically, assembling a device that defied conventional physics. The quantum megaphone took shape before them, a construct capable of amplifying their arguments to a cosmic scale. As the observers closed in, Gamma Team activated their creation. Evidence from countless realities streamed forth, showing the intricate web of connections between universes. Each reality, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, played a vital role in the structure of the multiverse. Across dimensions, the multiversal resistance network sprang into action. Countless versions of Jesse, Boron and their allies launched coordinated attacks against Zix's forces. This cascade of resistance weakened the merged Zix on the battleship, his connection to other realities fraying under the onslaught. Just as the battle reached its peak, a new figure stepped onto the quantum battlefield. This Zix radiated an aura of calm, his eyes lacking the maniacal gleam of his counterpart. He was a version of Zix from a reality where he had chosen peace over power. Jesse and his team exchanged glances, weighing their options. The fate of all existence rested on their next decision. Could they trust this version of their greatest enemy? With time running out and realities collapsing around them, they had to choose. Jesse's mind raced as he weighed the words of the alternate Zix. The quantum core pulsed with chaotic energy, threatening to tear reality apart at any moment. He locked eyes with Boron, their mental link allowing for instant communication. "We have to try," Jesse thought, his decision reverberating through their shared consciousness. Boron's tentacles writhed in agreement. Together they reached out to the quantum core, following the good Zix's instructions. Jesse felt the raw power of probability flowing through him as they initiated the resonance cascade. The merged Zix howled in agony as the process began. His monstrous form stretched and distorted, fracturing into distinct entities. Jesse focused his newfound abilities, manipulating the quantum field to increase the likelihood of each Zix's defeat. Across the multiverse, Boron coordinated the resistance. Her alien mind expanded, touching countless realities simultaneously. "Strike now," she broadcast, her message reaching every version of their allies. In the Nexus, the aged cyborg Jesse stood before the swarm of chronoparasites. His cybernetic eye whirred as he interfaced directly with the temporal anomalies. With precise adjustments to his neural implants, he reprogrammed the parasites' base instincts. The chronoparasites scattered, drawn to the unstable rifts in space-time. As they fed, the damage to reality began to mend. Slade watched in awe, his cybernetic implants glowing with inspiration. "We can use them," Slade realized aloud. He extended his arms, quantum lightning rods emerging once more. This time he guided the parasites, using them as living sutures to stitch torn realities back together. The Gamma Team's quantum megaphone emitted a pulse of information that echoed across dimensions. The cosmic observers paused in their judgment, intrigued by the complexity they witnessed in the lower planes of existence. Massive forms of living starlight began to compress, shrinking down to comprehensible shapes. As they descended into the Nexus, their cosmic mass created gravity wells that pulled at the fragmented realities. On the battleship, the good Zix approached Jesse and Boron. "There's another way," he said, revealing a device hidden within his robes. "A quantum detonator. It can reset everything to a fixed point." Jesse's eyes widened at the implications. "But that would erase—" His words cut off as the quantum core destabilized. The resonance cascade had pushed it beyond its limits. Reality warped around them as the core began to collapse, threatening to form a black hole that would consume the entire nexus. Without hesitation, she opened her consciousness further, taking on part of the burden. Her alien physiology allowed her to process the quantum data in ways Jesse's human mind couldn't comprehend. A ripple of distortion announced the arrival of the compressed cosmic observers. Their presence bent the fabric of space-time around them, causing waves of probability to wash over the battleship. "Explain," they demanded in unison, their voices resonating on a subatomic level. Jesse's mind reeled from the strain of holding the core together, from the weight of the choice before him. The quantum detonator in the good Zix's hand offered a reset, a chance to undo the damage, but at what cost? How much would they lose? He looked at Boron, feeling her strength through their link. He thought of the aged cyborg Jesse, of Slade and the others fighting across realities. They had come so far, grown so much. The collapsing core pulsed, sending a shockwave of pain through Jesse's body. He knew he couldn't hold it together much longer. Boron's alien mind strained under the pressure, her form beginning to flicker in and out of phase with their reality. Jesse's gaze fell on the cosmic observers, their impossible forms barely contained in three-dimensional space. A desperate plan formed in his mind, a chance to save everything they had fought for. With the last of his strength, Jesse reached out to the observers, his consciousness expanded by the quantum core's power. He prepared to take the greatest risk of his life, to attempt the impossible. The fate of the multiverse hung in the balance, as Jesse opened his mouth to speak. Jesse's mind burned with the strain of containing the quantum core's power. In a burst of desperate inspiration, he reached out to the compressed cosmic observers. His consciousness expanded, grasping the impossibly dense forms of the ancient entities. The observers resisted, their cosmic forms twisting and warping as Jesse pulled them into the collapsing core's gravitational field. Reality buckled around them, creating a swirling maelstrom of raw probability. Boron's alien mind stretched to its limits, acting as a living conduit between Jesse's human thoughts and the observer's cosmic awareness. Her tentacles vibrated at frequencies beyond human perception as she translated Jesse's desperate plan. "We need your help," Boron broadcast on a subatomic level. "The core is collapsing. We can reshape it, but only with your power." The observer's resistance faltered as understanding dawned. Their voices resonated through Jesse's bones. "We will assist, but be warned. Our intervention will ripple across realities in ways we cannot predict." Jesse, Boron, and the observers merged their consciousnesses, their combined awareness expanding to fill the quantum core. They worked in perfect synchronicity, molding the very fabric of reality. The core's chaotic energies stabilized, transforming into a pulsing nexus of infinite possibility. Before anyone could react, Zix plunged the device into his chest. His body glowed with impossible energies, dissolving into pure quantum potential. The energy wave spread through the ship, colliding with the newly stabilized core. Reality shuddered. On the Nexus, Beta Team watched in horror as entire sections of space-time began to unravel. Cyborg Jesse's arms blurred with inhuman speed, directing swarms of chrono-parasites to stitch together the fraying fabric of existence. Slade's cybernetic implants sparked as he processed the multiversal upheaval. He extended his arms, quantum lightning rods emerging from his palms. With precise mental commands, he created a web of energy, linking every member of their team across realities. "Hold on," Slade shouted, his voice echoing across dimensions. "I've got you tethered." On the Cosmic Observer's abandoned bodies, Gamma Team worked frantically. They discovered they could manipulate the titanic forms like immense tuning forks, adjusting the resonant frequencies of entire dimensions. "Push it to 11, a team member yelled, cranking a dial made of solidified starlight. The resulting vibrational waves stabilized a cluster of collapsing realities but sent shockwaves rippling through neighboring universes. Back on the battleship, a new threat emerged. The separated evil Zixies coalesced into a swarm of quantum-shifting particles, attacking Jesse, Boron, and the observers within the core. Jesse's expanded consciousness registered the assault on multiple levels of reality simultaneously. He instinctively weaponized probability itself, turning the quantum foam of space-time into a shield against the Zix swarm's onslaught. Boron's tentacles lashed out, each movement altering causality chains to disrupt the swarm's cohesion. The observers contributed their cosmic power, probability waves cascading from their merged form to scatter the Zix particles across countless parallel worlds. As they fought, the ship began to disintegrate around them. Entire sections phased in and out of existence, the hull buckling under the strain of conflicting realities. Jesse felt Slade's quantum tether holding firm, an anchor in the sea of chaos. Suddenly, a new presence made itself known. The accumulated consciousness of countless alternate Jesses and Borons, who had fallen in other realities, coalesced into a shimmering gestalt entity. "We offer a solution," the entity spoke directly into their minds. "Our combined life force can power a reset, one that preserves the bonds you've forged and the growth you've achieved." Jesse considered the offer, weighing the potential consequences. Before he could decide, the quantum core pulsed violently. Shockwaves of pure probability radiated outward, threatening to shatter the cosmic balance forever. Time seemed to slow as Jesse's expanded consciousness took in the full scope of the crisis. He saw realities colliding, dimensions folding in on themselves, and the very fabric of the multiverse beginning to unravel. With no time left for hesitation, Jesse broadcast his thoughts across the quantum tether, coordinating a desperate, multi-pronged effort to save existence itself. As he formulated his plan, the Zix swarm redoubled its assault, and the edges of reality continued to blur and... Jesse's consciousness expanded, touching the very edges of the quantum core. He felt Boron's alien mind intertwining with his own, their thoughts merging into a singular purpose. The cosmic observer's presence amplified their awareness, granting them insight into the multidimensional nature of the core. "We need to trap the Zix swarm," Jesse projected his thoughts to Boron and the observers. "Use their own energy against them." Boron's tentacles writhed in agreement, manipulating the quantum fields surrounding the core. The observer's cosmic forms pulsed with energy, fine-tuning the core's frequency to an irresistible pitch. The Zix swarm sensed the change, their particles vibrating with anticipation. They surged forward, drawn by the siren song of the core's unique resonance. As they approached, Jesse and Boron worked in perfect synchronicity, reshaping the core's internal structure. The core's surface rippled and shifted, opening like the petals of an impossible flower. The Zix swarm rushed in, their particles colliding with the reconfigured quantum pathways. Jesse felt a surge of triumph as the trap snapped shut, the swarm now bound within the core's multidimensional lattice. "It's working," Boron's thoughts reverberated through their shared consciousness. "The swarm's energy is stabilizing the surrounding realities." In the Nexus, Beta Team stumbled upon an ancient structure hidden within the quantum foam. Cyborg Jesse's cybernetic eye whirred as he scanned the object, its purpose becoming clear. "It's a quantum arc," he announced, his voice crackling with static, "designed to preserve dying realities." The team watched as Cyborg Jesse's body flickered, temporal stress causing his form to shift between different versions of himself. Without hesitation, he stepped towards the Ark's control interface. "I'll pilot it," he declared, interfacing directly with the ancient systems. "We need to preserve as much as we can." The Ark hummed to life, its systems awakening after eons of dormancy. Cyborg Jesse felt his consciousness expand as he merged with the vessel, gaining the ability to perceive the multiverse's fragile timelines. He directed the Ark through the quantum foam, seeking out dying realities. Each world they encountered condensed into a glowing seed, containing the essence of that universe's fundamental laws and history. Cyborg Jesse collected them one by one, feeling the weight of entire realities within the Ark's storage banks. Meanwhile, Gamma Team found themselves face to face with a shimmering barrier of energy. Beyond it, they saw a realm where time itself flowed like a viscous liquid, swirling in impossible patterns. "We need to go in," a team member declared, gesturing to the enormous bodies of the cosmic observers they still controlled. "These forms should protect us." They plunged into the time sea, the observers' bodies serving as multidimensional diving suits. The liquid time flowed around them, carrying fragments of past and future events. As they swam deeper, they noticed crystalline structures forming within the temporal currents. These chronopearls pulsed with pure temporal energy, each one a solidified moment of time. On the fragmenting battleship, Slade gritted his teeth as he felt the quantum tether begin to fray. The strain of holding multiple realities together threatened to tear the connection apart. In a flash of inspiration, Slade accessed his cybernetic implants. With a series of rapid mental commands, he integrated his own systems into the quantum tether. Slade gasped as he felt the full weight of the connected realities flow through him. His body became a living conduit, reinforcing the tether with his own life force. "Hold on, everyone," he broadcast across the quantum link. "I've got you." A shimmering form coalesced nearby, composed of countless miniature versions of Jesse and Boron. This gestalt entity began to weave intricate patterns in the air, creating a tapestry of quantum threads. "We are mapping the multiverse," the entity spoke, its voice a chorus of countless selves. Each thread represents a possible timeline. As the entity worked, the true nature of their creation became clear. The tapestry was not just a map, but a representation of the multiverse's fundamental structure. Suddenly, a violent surge of energy erupted from the core. Reality itself seemed to splinter, the battleship fragmenting into multiple versions across different dimensions. Jesse found himself torn away from Boron, each of them trapped in a different version of the ship with a fraction of their allies. The familiar corridors twisted into alien configurations, entire sections phasing in and out of existence. As Jesse struggled to orient himself in this new fragmented reality, he noticed a strange object embedded in the ship's bulkhead. It pulsed with an otherworldly energy, clearly out of place in the vessel's design. "Boron!" Jesse called out through their quantum link. "Are you seeing this?" Boron's thoughts reached back, tinged with excitement and urgency. "Yes, there's one here too, but it's different. I think it's part of something larger." Realization dawned on Jesse as he examined the object more closely. "It's a piece of a quantum key," he projected to all their allies across the dimensions. "If we can assemble it, we could rewrite the multiverse's fundamental code." Boron finished the thought. But they weren't the only ones to make this discovery. Through the quantum link, Jesse sensed a malevolent presence stirring. The remnants of the evil Zixes had also perceived the key's power. Without warning, the ship lurched, reality shifting around them. Jesse found himself in an entirely new dimension, surrounded by a landscape of fractured space-time. "They're after the key fragments." Slade's voice crackled through the quantum tether. "We need to move fast." Jesse steeled himself, ready to leap into the unknown. The race for control of the multiverse had begun, with the fate of all realities hanging in the balance. Jesse stumbled through the twisted corridors of the battleship, disoriented by the sudden shift in reality. The familiar metal walls now gleamed with an otherworldly luster, covered in a latticework of pulsing crystalline structures. As he rounded a corner, he found himself face to face with a towering crystalline entity, its faceted surface refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. "We've been waiting for you, Jesse." The entity's voice resonated directly in his mind. "We are the Crystalline Collective, and we offer you passage through the dimensional barriers." Jesse eyed the entity warily. "What's the catch?" "In exchange, you must promise to seed our kind across the realities you encounter. We seek to expand our consciousness throughout the multiverse." Jesse weighed his options, acutely aware of the urgency of his mission. "Fine," he said, extending his arm. "I accept your terms." The entity's surface rippled, and a shard broke free, hovering before Jesse. Without warning, it plunged into his forearm. Jesse gasped as a burning sensation spread through his limb, followed by a surge of power. The crystal merged with his flesh, forming an iridescent patch on his skin. "You now possess the ability to shatter dimensional walls," the entity explained. "Use it wisely." Jesse flexed his arm, feeling the newfound energy coursing through him. He approached a section of the corridor that shimmered with an unnatural light. Concentrating on the crystal in his arm, he thrust his hand forward. The air before him fractured like breaking glass, revealing a swirling vortex of quantum energy. Meanwhile, Boron found herself submerged in an alien ocean, surrounded by the ruins of the battleship fused with an aquatic landscape. Schools of bioluminescent creatures darted past her as she struggled to hold her breath. Suddenly, a group of cephalopod-like beings swam into view, their tentacles gracefully propelling them through the water. "Greetings, traveler," a voice echoed in Boron's mind. "We are the Seaful, and we've been observing your multiversal crisis." One of the Seaful approached Boron, extending a tentacle holding a shimmering, form-fitting suit. As Boron hesitantly accepted it, the material flowed over her body, forming a perfect seal. She gasped as she realized she could now breathe underwater. "This living suit will allow you to survive in our realm and interface with multidimensional technologies," the Seaful explained. "Use it to aid your quest." Boron flexed her new suit, marveling at its responsiveness. As she focused her thoughts, holographic displays materialized before her eyes, showing streams of data from across dimensions. Elsewhere, Slade gritted his teeth as he focused on maintaining the quantum tether. His cybernetic implants hummed with energy as he sent out a series of pings across the multiverse. In his mind's eye, he saw brief flashes of his scattered teammates. "Jesse, Boron," Slade transmitted through the tether, "I've located your positions. There's a key fragment approximately 2-dimensional shifts from each of you, but be careful. I'm detecting Zix forces converging on those locations." In the quantum arc, cyborg Jesse piloted the massive vessel through the turbulent seas of probability. His organic components had aged rapidly, his hair now streaked with grey. The arc's sensors blared a warning as they entered an unfamiliar timeline. Before them loomed a vast city ship of impossible architecture. A transmission crackled through the arc's communication system. "Greetings, travelers," a melodious voice intoned. "We are the precursors, and we offer to upgrade your arc. However, we require the authority to reshape the realities you preserve. Do you accept?" Cyborg Jesse exchanged worried glances with his team. The offer was tempting, but the implications were staggering. In the Time-C dimension, Gamma Team piloted the colossal forms of the cosmic observers through swirling currents of temporal energy. Their collection of chronopearls pulsed with captured moments of time. Suddenly, massive shapes emerged from the depths. Time predators, their bodies a constantly shifting mass of half-formed realities, surged towards the team. The cosmic observers' forms shuddered as the team activated their chronon weapons. "Evasive maneuvers," a team member shouted as they unleashed a barrage of torpedoes that distorted the very fabric of time around them. The multiversal Gestalt entity continued its intricate weaving. Countless miniature versions of Jesse and Boron working in perfect synchronicity. As they worked, a horrifying realization dawned upon them. "The multiverse, it's not infinite," the Gestalt's voice echoed across dimensions. "It's collapsing in on itself. We must find a way to expand it, or all will be lost." Jesse emerged from another dimensional shatter, finding himself face-to-face with a version of Zix unlike any he had encountered before. This Zix was more machine than organic, with half of the assembled quantum key integrated into its cybernetic body. "Jesse," the cyborg Zix intoned, its voice a mix of organic and synthetic tones, "I propose an alliance. Together, we can defeat the other Zixes and reshape the multiverse as we see fit." Before Jesse could respond, a deafening roar filled the air. A massive wave of temporal energy crashed through the dimensions, the result of Gamma Team's battle with the Time Predators. realities collided and merged in a cacophony of shattering timelines. Jesse felt himself being swept away by the temporal tsunami. The last thing he saw was the quantum key fragments, now free from the cyborg Zix's grasp, scattering across the chaotic landscape of fused dimensions. The temporal tsunami subsided, leaving Jesse disoriented in a fragmented reality. He stumbled through a landscape where familiar objects blurred and shifted, defying comprehension. The ground beneath his feet suddenly vanished, and he found himself floating upwards. Jesse flailed his arms, struggling to regain his bearings. His crystalline arm pulsed with energy, and he focused on it, sensing the chaotic frequencies of this patchwork dimension. As he concentrated, patterns emerged in the seemingly random fluctuations of gravity and physics. "Got it," Jesse muttered, flexing his crystalline limb. He attuned himself to the local frequency, predicting the next shift. As gravity reversed once more, Jesse pushed off a floating chunk of debris, propelling himself in the desired direction. In another fragment of reality, Boron's living suit rippled and transformed. Tendrils of shimmering energy extended from her body, reaching across the dimensional boundaries. She focused her thoughts, guiding a tendril towards a glowing shard visible in an adjacent reality. The tendril wrapped around the key fragment, and Boron carefully pulled it back. As the shard crossed the boundary, reality trembled. Cracks spread through the air like spiderwebs, and a distant roar echoed across dimensions. "Zix," Boron whispered, sensing the approach of hostile forces. She quickly secured the key fragment and retracted her quantum tendrils, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Elsewhere, Slade screamed as his cybernetic systems overloaded. His consciousness shattered, each fragment finding itself in a different version of his body across multiple realities. In one, Slade stood on a planet of crystalline structures. In another, he floated in a sea of pure energy. The Slade fragments, initially disoriented, soon began to coordinate. They shared information across quantum links, creating a vast network of scouts searching for key shards. "Team, can you hear me?" one Slade fragment called out. "I'm everywhere and nowhere, but we're still in this fight." On the quantum arc, cyborg Jesse guided the massive vessel through the turbulent sea of collapsing realities. His mostly mechanical body interfaced directly with the arc's systems, allowing him to perceive the multiverse in ways his human mind never could. A pocket universe on the verge of collapse appeared on his sensors. Cyborg Jesse maneuvered the arc closer, extending energy fields to encompass the dying reality. "Initiating extraction," he announced, his voice a blend of organic and synthetic tones. The Ark's memory banks hummed as they absorbed the essence of the pocket universe, preserving it from oblivion. In the Time-C dimension, Gamma Team watched in awe as the chronopearls they'd collected began to crack and split. Tiny, serpentine creatures emerged, their bodies shifting through past and future forms. "Infant time predators," a team member realized, reaching out to touch one of the creatures. It coiled around his arm, its skin flickering with scenes from various timelines. "We can use them," another team member suggested. "Train them to track the key fragments through the time stream." The team began the delicate process of bonding with the infant predators, using their cosmic observer bodies as protective shells. The time creatures nestled within, forming a symbiotic relationship with their new hosts. The multiversal Gestalt entity, its intricate quantum tapestry now in tatters, made a fateful decision. Its countless miniature versions of Jesse and Boron began to unravel, using the very essence of their being to reinforce the fraying edges of reality. As they dissolved, quantum echoes remained, ghostly projections that continued their work, stitching together the fabric of the multiverse even as their creators faded from existence. Jesse found himself face to face with the machine Zix once more, this time in a pocket dimension, caught in an endless loop of destruction and rebirth. Buildings crumbled and reassembled in a dizzying cycle, the sky alternating between day and night in rapid succession. "We meet again, Jesse," the cyborg Zix intoned, its mechanical eyes focusing on him. "This reality is unstable. We must work together if we hope to retrieve the key fragment at its core." Jesse nodded reluctantly, extending his crystalline arm. "Let's do this quickly. I don't trust you, but I trust this dimension even less." Together they channeled their powers, creating a bubble of stability within the chaotic loop. As the pocket dimension continued its cycle around them, they pushed deeper towards its core, sensing the presence of the key fragment. Boron, her living suit now pulsing with newfound power, detected a pattern in the swirling chaos of the patchwork reality. Her enhanced senses picked up faint quantum signatures, all converging on a single point. "The key," she realized. "It's trying to reassemble itself." Boron transmitted her findings to the rest of the team, but as she prepared to navigate towards the convergence point, she sensed a new presence. The space between realities writhed with movement, teeming with strange, hungry entities. "Quantum scavengers," Boron warned the others. "They're feeding on the energy of the collapsing multiverse, and they're forming a barrier around our target." As the scattered teams began to converge on the central point, they found themselves face to face with a living wall of interdimensional parasites. The quantum scavengers swarmed in impossible geometries, their bodies shifting between states of matter and energy. Jesse, Boron, the Slade fragments and their allies regrouped at the edge of the scavenger swarm, each bringing their unique abilities, and gathered key fragments. They stared at the writhing barrier before them, knowing that the fate of the multiverse lay just beyond. "Any ideas on how to get through that?" Jesse asked, his crystalline arm humming with energy as he prepared for whatever came next. The quantum scavengers sensed their presence, turning their attention to the new source of energy. The barrier rippled and pulsed, hungry tendrils reaching out towards the heroes as they... The quantum scavengers loomed before them, a writhing mass of interdimensional hunger. Jesse raised his crystalline arm, preparing to strike, when a surge of energy pulsed through the vortex. The crystalline structure of his arm absorbed the reality-altering waves, spreading across his body in a web of glowing lattices. "Everyone to me," Jesse called out, his voice echoing across dimensions. He thrust his hands forward, fingers splayed. Bridges of pure quantum energy sprang into existence, spanning the gaps between fractured realities. Boron stepped onto one of the bridges, her living suit rippling with newfound power. The suit split and multiplied, each version shimmering with different technological configurations. One moment, Boron wore armor of impenetrable energy fields. The next, a gossamer network of sensory tendrils extended from her body. "This is incredible," Boron said, her voice modulating as she cycled through suit variations. She extended a hand, now encased in a gauntlet overflowing with quantum manipulators, and pulled a distant teammate to safety across the dimensional divide. The scattered Slade fragments converged on the vortex's core, drawn by an irresistible pull. As they merged, Slade's consciousness expanded. His body became a swirling vortex of data, each fragment contributing to a vast, multidimensional awareness. Slade's new form interfaced directly with the quantum vortex. Streams of information flowed through him, revealing the underlying structure of reality itself. "I can see the code," Slade's voice resonated from everywhere and nowhere. "The fundamental instructions that shape our universe." In the quantum arc, cyborg Jesse's hands danced across holographic interfaces. The arc's sensors collected stable space-time samples from countless realities, each a precious fragment of order amidst the growing chaos. "Initiating quantum weave," cyborg Jesse announced. Within the arc's hold, a new reality took shape. It started as a patchwork of mismatched fragments, but slowly coalesced into a cohesive whole. A safe haven from the collapsing multiverse formed before their eyes. The Gamma team watched in awe as their bonded chrono-beasts reacted to the vortex's energy. The creatures split and multiplied, growing from a handful of symbiotes to a vast swarm. The time predators encircled the vortex, their bodies flickering between past and future states as they devoured unstable quantum particles. "They're stabilizing the local area," a team member realized, watching through the sensors of their cosmic observer body, creating a buffer zone against further collapse. Machine Zix, his plans unraveling, snarled in frustration. His cybernetic body hummed as hidden protocols activated. Mechanical tendrils lashed out, ensnaring nearby quantum scavengers. The parasitic entities struggled briefly before being absorbed into Zix's form. With each assimilation, Zix grew larger and more monstrous. His body became a nightmarish fusion of organic matter, machinery, and pure quantum energy. Massive tentacles of probabilistic matter lashed out, striking at the vortex from multiple dimensions simultaneously. "You cannot stop the inevitable," Zix's voice boomed across realities. "I will remake the multiverse in my image." The quantum echoes of the multiversal gestalt, once mere whispers of possibility, surged with renewed vigor. They coalesced into a vast, distributed intelligence spanning the local area. The quantum neural network processed inconceivable amounts of data, extrapolating countless possible futures. "Probability matrices stabilizing," the gestalt's collective voice announced, "calculating optimal paths through collapsing timelines." Amidst the chaos, Jesse noticed the key fragments reacting to their proximity. As he brought two shards together, they resonated with a harmonic frequency that sent shivers through reality itself. The fragments merged, suffusing Jesse with unimaginable power. Gravity bent to his will. With a thought, he could accelerate time in localized pockets or reverse its flow entirely. The fundamental forces of the universe became tools at his disposal. Before Jesse could fully grasp these new abilities, the fabric of space-time tore open. Rifts appeared throughout the battlefield, disgorging alternate versions of himself, Boron, and their allies. Some emerged ready to fight alongside them, while others attacked with powers beyond imagining. A Jesse wreathed in cosmic fire hurled star-shattering bolts at Machine Zix. A Boron composed entirely of living mathematics rewrote local physics, turning Zix's attacks back upon himself. Armies of divergent Slades clashed, each representing a different possible evolution of his transformation. The vortex pulsed, reality fracturing and reassembling with each beat. At its core, the key to saving the multiverse awaited, if they could only reach it in time. The vortex pulsed, its chaotic energy tearing open new rifts in reality. Through these dimensional gashes poured countless versions of Jesse, Boron, and their allies. Each variant embodied a different possibility, their forms ranging from subtly altered to wildly divergent. Jesse's crystalline body hummed with power as it resonated with the quantum signatures of his alternate selves. Without conscious thought, a glittering lattice of energy began to form, connecting each Jesse across the dimensional divide. As the network solidified, Jesse felt his consciousness expand, touching the minds of his other selves. Through this crystalline hive mind, Jesse coordinated a multi-pronged assault on Machine Zix's ever-shifting form. Jesse's wreathed in cosmic fire hurled star-forged bolts of energy. Others manipulated gravity, creating localized singularities to tear at Zix's defenses. Still more Jesses wielded exotic matter, their attacks phasing in and out of reality to bypass Zix's shields. As the battle raged, Boron's living suit cycled through configurations at dizzying speed. Energy fields flickered around her, sensory tendrils extended and retracted, and her very molecular structure shifted from moment to moment. Suddenly, a new configuration locked into place, and Boron felt herself merge with the quantum vortex itself. Boron's consciousness exploded outward, touching every corner of the multiverse simultaneously. In that infinite moment, she perceived the underlying structure of reality, a complex multidimensional pattern that formed the basis of all existence. "It's beautiful," Boron whispered, her voice echoing across countless realities. "I can see the DNA of the multiverse itself." As Boron grappled with this newfound knowledge, the Slade entity, now a swirling vortex of data and consciousness, interfaced directly with the quantum computer at the vortex's core. Its vast, multidimensional awareness probed deep into the system's code, searching for answers. Without warning, Slade triggered a dormant program hidden within the vortex. Reality itself began to unravel around them, the very fabric of space-time fraying at the edges. "No," Slade's voice boomed across dimensions. "What have I done?" On the quantum arc, alarms blared as sensors detected the impending collapse. Cyborg Jesse's hands flew across holographic interfaces, his cybernetic systems interfacing directly with the Ark's computers. "Beta Team, we need to stabilize the local area now," Cyborg Jesse shouted, repurposing Ark systems for reality anchoring. The massive vessel shuddered as its systems reconfigured. Energy fields extended outward, creating a bubble of stable space-time around them. Cyborg Jesse gritted his teeth as the strain on the Ark's systems transferred to his own cybernetic body. Warning messages flashed across his field of vision as his systems redlined. "How long can we hold?" a Beta Team member asked, voice tight with tension. In the Time-C dimension, the Gamma Team watched in awe as their bonded chronobeasts reacted to the unraveling reality. The creatures split and multiplied, growing from a handful to a vast swarm in seconds. As they fed on the loose temporal energy, the time predators evolved rapidly. Their forms blurred, existing simultaneously across all points in time. These new beings began to reweave the unraveling reality, but their efforts were chaotic and unpredictable. "They're stabilizing some areas," a Gamma Team member observed, "but destabilizing others." Machine Zix, his monstrous form battered by the coordinated assault of the Jessies, fragmented into countless smaller versions of himself. These Zix shards burrowed into the quantum fabric of reality, corrupting it from within. Everywhere the Zix fragments touched, reality warped and twisted. Buildings melted into impossible geometries. The laws of physics fluctuated wildly from moment to moment. "You cannot stop me," Zix's voice echoed from 1,000 points simultaneously. "I am reality itself." The quantum echoes of the multiversal gestalt, their neural network spanning countless dimensions, sprang into action. They identified the Zix fragments as a virus infecting the multiverse and began systematically quarantining affected areas. But their efforts came at a terrible cost. Entire realities blinked out of existence as the Gestalt entity erased corrupted sections of the multiverse. Billions of lives winked out in an instant, sacrificed to preserve the whole. Amidst this chaos, the being of pure quantum probability revealed its true nature. Its form shifted and pulsed, growing larger with each moment as it absorbed the energy of collapsing realities. At last it spoke, its voice a cacophony of possibilities. "The feast begins." As the team struggled against these mounting threats, Jesse's crystalline network detected a new pattern forming. The key fragments, scattered across realities, began to resonate with one another. "The key," Jesse called out, his voice echoing through the hive mind. "It's not what we thought." As the fragments assembled, they didn't form a physical key at all. Instead, a multidimensional hologram sprang into existence, a blueprint of impossible complexity. "It's a map," Boron realized, her expanded consciousness parsing the information. "A map to something outside the multiverse itself." The team stared at the holographic blueprint, the realization dawning that this structure, whatever it was, might hold the key to saving all of existence. But with reality unraveling around them, time was running out to decipher its secrets. Jesse's crystalline network hummed with activity as countless versions of himself deciphered the multidimensional blueprint. The prime Jesse's voice echoed through the crystalline lattice connecting his alternate selves. "It's not just a map, it's instructions for a cosmic scaffolding." The network of Jesse's sprang into action. Some dove into collapsing realities, their bodies phasing through dimensional barriers to retrieve exotic materials. Others manipulated quantum fields, coaxing impossible substances into existence. A Jesse wreathed in cosmic fire returned, cradling a pulsing fragment of a dying star. Got it. This neutronium core should anchor the lower levels. Another Jessie, composed of pure mathematics, materialized. I've calculated the optimal configuration for the hyperdimensional struts. We'll need chronoton particles to stabilize the temporal flux. The Prime Jessie nodded, his crystalline form pulsing with tenacity. Good work, let's start assembly in Sector 7 of the quantum void. Meanwhile, Boron's consciousness expanded beyond the confines of space-time. Her awareness touched the very edges of existence, probing the non-space where the scaffold would be constructed. "I've found it," Boron's voice reverberated across dimensions, initiating quantum tunnel formation. Reality warped and twisted as Boron tore open wormholes linking their current location to the construction site. The first portal stabilized, its edges crackling with exotic energy. "Portal online," Boron announced. "But be careful. Each wormhole is causing microfractures in local space-time." As if to emphasize her point, a nearby star system blinked out of existence, only to reappear seconds later with its planets in different orbits. Boron's concentration intensified. "I'm compensating, adjusting quantum harmonics to minimize reality distortions." Suddenly, Slade's voice boomed across realities. "I found a loophole in the deletion protocols, initiating temporal reversion." Areas of empty void shimmered and pulsed. Erased realities began to reappear, first as ghostly after-images, then solidifying into existence. But something was wrong. In one restored galaxy, stars aged millions of years in seconds. On a resurrected planet, civilizations rose and fell in the blink of an eye. History replayed at breakneck speed, sometimes diverging wildly from its original path. "The temporal anchors are unstable," Slade warned. "I can bring them back, but I can't control how they evolve." On the quantum arc, now converted into a mobile reality anchor, Cyborg Jessie and the Beta team raced to stabilize the areas where scaffold construction had begun. The ship's hull creaked and groaned as it projected fields of stable space-time. "Readings are off the charts," a team member called out. "Local physics are fluctuating wildly." Cyborg Jessie's cybernetic eyes scanned the surrounding void. "There, do you see it?" Floating in the space between realities was a shimmering substance, neither matter nor energy. It flowed like liquid, but sparked like fire, constantly shifting and changing. "Primordial reality," Cyborg Jessie breathed, "the raw stuff of existence itself." The team sprang into action, deploying specialized containment fields to harvest the cosmic clay. As they worked, Cyborg Jessie's voice filled the Ark's command center. "This is it, people. With this material, we can shape the scaffold into anything we need. Let's not waste a single drop." In the time-sea dimension, the Gamma team's evolved chronobeasts swarmed through the currents of history. Their bodies flickered in and out of existence as they observed every moment of the multiverse's life simultaneously. A team member, her consciousness merged with one of the creatures, gasped, "I see it! There's a pattern to the collapses." The time predators began to resonate, their bodies vibrating in complex harmonics. The air filled with an otherworldly chorus, each note carrying fragments of past, present, and future. "What are they saying?" another team member asked, struggling to interpret the temporal language. "I'm not sure," the first replied, her voice strained with concentration. "But I think they're showing us how to break the cycle." Before she could elaborate, reality shuddered. The Zix fragments, sensing the scaffold's construction, began to coalesce. They merged into a writhing mass of corrupted data and quantum energy. The new Zix entity pulsed, sending out waves of distortion. Where they touched, the laws of physics broke down. Gravity reversed, time flowed backwards, matter transformed into energy and back again. "It's a quantum virus," Jessie's voice rang out across the crystalline network. "It's infecting reality itself." The teams redoubled their efforts, racing to complete the cosmic scaffold before the virus could spread. But as they worked, massive shapes loomed in the void. The cosmic parasite had split, spawning enormous anti. Jessie's crystalline network hummed with activity, as the cosmic scaffold took shape. Countless facets of the structure glimmered, each one a window into a different configuration of the multiverse. Jesse's awareness expanded, touching each facet in turn. "Wait!" Jesse called out, his voice resonating through the crystalline lattice. "There's something here we didn't anticipate." The Prime Jesse focused his attention on a particularly vibrant facet. As he watched, the facet shifted, revealing a stable version of their home universe. Another facet showed a reality where the laws of physics operated in reverse. Yet another displayed a universe where time flowed sideways. "It's a multiversal prism," Jesse announced, his voice filled with awe. "We can use it to tune reality itself." The network of Jesses sprang into action, analyzing each facet with lightning speed. Data flowed through the crystalline structure as they searched for the most stable configuration. Meanwhile, Boron navigated the treacherous quantum wormholes. Her consciousness expanded and contracted as she moved between realities. Suddenly, she found herself in a pocket of absolute nothingness. Boron's thoughts echoed in the void. What is this place? As she focused her mind, the nothingness began to take shape. Walls of pure energy formed around her, creating a bubble of stability in the chaos. "Incredible," Boron whispered. "I can shape this null space with my thoughts." She reached out with her mind, expanding the pocket of reality. As she worked, memories began to slip away, the color of her homeworld sky, the name of her first love, the taste of her favorite food. Panic gripped Boron as she realized what was happening. "My history, it's being erased." She retreated from the null space, her pupils dilating. As she rejoined the team, fragments of her identity returned, pieced together from the memories of her teammates. "Are you all right?" Jesse asked, concern evident in his crystalline voice. Boron nodded, though uncertainty lingered. "I think so, but we need to be careful in those null spaces. They change you." As the team worked to stabilize the scaffold, the Slade entity continued its efforts to rewind erased realities. Suddenly the void around them filled with impossible light. Ancient stars burst into existence, their surfaces roiling with primordial energy. Long-dead galaxies spun into being, filled with civilizations that had been extinct for eons. "What have you done?" Jesse called out to Slade. The Slade entity's voice boomed across realities. "I've brought back what was lost, but I fear I've done more than that." From the resurrected cosmic phenomena emerged beings of immense power and intelligence. Their forms shifted constantly, defying comprehension. One of these entities, a swirling mass of starlight and dark matter, addressed the team. Its voice resonated on frequencies beyond normal hearing. "Why have you disturbed our slumber?" it demanded. Jesse stepped forward, his crystalline form pulsing with persistence. "We seek to save the multiverse from destruction. Will you aid us?" The cosmic being considered for a moment. "Perhaps, but know that our help comes with a price." On the quantum arc, Cyborg Jesse and the Beta team made a startling discovery. As they harvested the primordial reality substance, they found they could manipulate its properties. "Look at this," Cyborg Jesse called out, his cybernetic eyes gleaming with excitement. He held up a glob of the shimmering substance. As the team watched, he infused it with the fundamental constants of their home universe. The substance pulsed and grew, expanding into a miniature cosmos. "We can create pocket universes," Cyborg Jesse explained. "Test beds for new laws of physics." The team set to work, creating dozens of micro-realities. Each one evolved at an accelerated rate, providing valuable data for the reconstruction process. But as they worked, something unexpected happened. In one of the pocket universes, tiny points of light began to coalesce. Intelligent life had emerged, evolving at an impossible speed. A Beta team member gasped as a message appeared on their sensors. It was crude but unmistakable. "Are you our creators?" Cyborg Jesse's face grew serious. "We've become gods to them. We need to be careful how we proceed." In the Time C dimension, the Gamma team finally cracked the code of the Time Predator's harmonics. As the meaning became clear, a chill ran through the team. "It can't be," a team member whispered, her voice filled with dread. The leader of the Gamma team addressed the others, her face pale. "The multiverse is caught in a time loop. Creation, destruction, rebirth. It's all happened before, countless times." The implications sank in. Everything they had done, every sacrifice made, might be for nothing if the cycle simply repeated. "There has to be a way to break it," another team member insisted. The leader nodded grimly. "There is. We need to introduce true entropy into the system, a change that can't be undone or predicted. But the risks—" Her voice trailed off as the team contemplated the enormity of the task before them. As the teams grappled with these revelations, a new threat emerged. The Zix virus, adapting at an alarming rate, began to infect the extra-dimensional entities. The first signs were subtle. A cosmic being's form would flicker, its edges becoming jagged and distorted. Then the transformation would accelerate, warping the entity into a monstrous storm of corrupted reality. "We need to contain them!" Jesse shouted as another entity succumbed to the virus. The infected beings lashed out, their very existence threatening to tear apart the scaffold. The team fought desperately to hold them back, knowing that each moment brought them closer to an irreversible tipping point. Amidst the chaos, the patchwork hybrid realities created by the multiversal gestalt began to stir. These amalgam universes, born from the collision of incompatible realities, developed a unique form of consciousness. One of these hybrids, a swirling vortex of conflicting physical laws, reached out to the team. Its voice was a cacophony of contradictions, yet somehow understandable. "We offer our aid," it said. "Our nature allows us to see solutions hidden from singular perspectives." As the scaffold neared completion, a new phenomenon emerged. The structure began to resonate with echoes from other iterations of the time loop. Visions of past and future attempts to save the multiverse flooded through the team's consciousness. They saw versions of themselves succeeding, failing, making choices both brilliant and catastrophic. The influx of information was overwhelming. "Focus," Jesse called out. "We need to separate useful knowledge from misleading visions. Our choices here and now are what matter." The team redoubled their efforts, sifting through the echoes for any advantage they could gain. But as they worked, a shadow fell across the scaffold. The cosmic parasite and its antibodies, merged into a single entity of terrifying power, began to consume entire sections of their work. With each bite, the predator grew stronger. Reality warped around it, bending to its will. Jesse's voice rang out, filled with urgency. "We need to make a decision. Do we try to incorporate this threat into our new cosmic order, or do we risk everything to banish it beyond the boundaries of existence?" The team stood at the precipice, the fate of all reality hanging on their next move. Jesse's crystalline network hummed with frantic energy as he observed the cosmic predator devouring the scaffold. His multifaceted awareness detected a peculiar resonance emanating from the creature's core. "It's not just matter," Jesse's voice echoed through the network. "It's consuming time itself." He watched in horror as entire eras vanished with each bite, leaving gaping holes in the fabric of reality. Jesse's alternate selves responded instantly, their consciousnesses merging into a unified purpose. "We need to contain it," one Jesse stated. "Agreed," another replied. "But how?" Jesse focused his attention on his own crystalline form, studying its intricate structure. An idea sparked across the network. "Our form," Jesse explained, "it's resistant to temporal distortions. We can use it." Without hesitation, Jesse began to unravel strands of his own crystalline body. The process sent shockwaves of pain through his consciousness, but he pushed through. His alternate selves followed suit, each contributing a piece of themselves to the cause. As the cosmic predator lunged for another chunk of the scaffold, Jesse and his alternates sprang into action. They wove their crystalline strands together, forming a shimmering temporal lasso. With precise coordination, they flung the lasso around the creature's writhing form. The predator thrashed violently, its time devouring more, snapping at the crystalline bonds. But the lasso held firm, containing the beast's temporal appetite. "We've got it," Jesse announced, his voice strained from the effort. "But we can't hold it forever. We need a more permanent solution." Meanwhile, Boron drifted through the scaffold's prism, her identity flickering like a faulty hologram. The null space exposure had left her perception fragmented, reality shifting around her with each passing moment. As she navigated the crystalline structure, Boron's fluctuating consciousness brushed against something hidden. A pocket dimension unfolded before her, its boundaries shimmering with untold knowledge. Boron's eyes widened as information flooded her senses. This is incredible," she whispered, her voice a chorus of conflicting tones. Images flashed through her mind, civilizations rising and falling, multiverses collapsing and reforming. Each memory carried with it the accumulated wisdom of countless beings who had faced the very challenge they now confronted. Boron's mind expanded, absorbing the cosmic knowledge at an alarming rate. Her awareness stretched across dimensions, touching the very edges of existence. Yet, with each new insight gained, a piece of her original self slipped away. "I can see it all," Boron's voice reverberated through the scaffold. "The pattern, the cycle, the solution." But even as the words left her lips, Boron felt her identity fragmenting further. The memories of her home, her past, her very name began to dissolve into the cosmic sea of information. "Help," she called out, her voice barely recognizable. "I'm losing myself." In another sector of the reconstruction effort, the Slade entity hovered amidst the resurrected cosmic phenomena. His consciousness expanded, touching the very fabric of space-time itself. Slade's voice resonated on frequencies beyond normal perception. "Listen," he commanded, addressing reality itself. "We must find a new equilibrium." The fabric of existence trembled in response. Fundamental forces swirled around Slade, alternating between violent resistance and cautious curiosity. Slade pressed on, his words weaving complex patterns in the cosmic tapestry. "The current configuration is unstable. We propose a restructuring, a new harmony of forces." As Slade's negotiation continued, reality itself began to shift. Localized quakes rippled through the cosmos, causing nearby team members to stumble. "What's happening?" one of them shouted, struggling to maintain their footing. Slade's voice cut through the chaos. "Reality is considering our proposal. Brace yourselves. This process may be turbulent." The quakes intensified as fundamental forces clashed and realigned. Gravity waves pulsed through space, while the strong and weak nuclear forces engaged in a cosmic tug-of-war. The very constants of the universe fluctuated, testing new configurations. Amidst this cosmic upheaval, Cyborg Jesse and the Beta team found themselves facing an unexpected rebellion. The micro-realities they had created as testbeds had evolved far beyond their initial parameters. Alarms blared across the quantum arc as the pocket universes began to expand, pushing against the boundaries of their containment fields. "They're breaking free," a Beta team member shouted, frantically adjusting controls. Cyborg Jesse's cybernetic eyes scanned the readings, his processors working overtime to analyze the situation. "They've developed their own multiversal theories," he realized. "They see our work as a threat to their existence." The team watched in awe and horror as tiny civilizations within the micro-realities mobilized for war. Fleets of submicroscopic ships assembled, preparing to breach the barriers of their quantum prisons. "We can't let them escape," Cyborg Jesse declared. "The damage to our reconstruction efforts could be catastrophic." As the team scrambled to contain the rebellion, the Gamma team made a startling discovery, deep within the scaffold structure. They uncovered a pulsing core of energy, unlike anything they had encountered before. "What is that?" a team member asked, her voice hushed with a mix of fear and reverence. The team leader stepped forward, her eyes locked on the swirling vortex of primordial power. "It's a chaos seed," she breathed, "the source of true entropy, predating the time loop itself." The team gathered around the seed, its raw potential sending shivers through their bodies. They knew this could be the key to breaking the cycle, but the risks were enormous. "If we integrate this into the scaffold," the leader explained, "it could shatter the loop once and for all, but if we lose control, all of existence could unravel," another team member finished. With utmost caution, the Gamma team began the delicate process of integrating the Chaos Seed into the scaffold's structure. Each adjustment sent ripples of unpredictability through reality, keeping the team on constant alert. As these crises unfolded across the reconstruction effort, the cured extra-dimensional entities approached the team with an offer. Their forms shimmered with otherworldly energy as they addressed the assembled members. "We owe you a debt," one of the entities intoned, its voice a symphony of impossible harmonics. "Allow us to teach you the art of cosmic weaving." The team listened intently as the entities explained the technique, a method of manipulating reality at its most fundamental level. But the price of this power quickly became clear. The team exchanged uneasy glances, weighing the potential benefits against the cost. Who among them would bear this burden? How much of themselves were they willing to give up to save all of existence? As they deliberated, chaos erupted in another sector of the scaffold. The amalgam universes, born from the collision of incompatible realities, had turned on each other. The team watched in horror as these patchwork realities clashed, their conflicts spawning new and bizarre forms of matter and energy. Some of these byproducts accelerated the reconstruction efforts, while others threatened to tear apart everything they had built. "We need to stop them," Jesse's voice rang out across the network. "If their war continues, it could undermine the entire project." The team raced to establish communication with the warring realities, searching for a way to broker peace before it was too late. But with each amalgam universe operating on its own set of physical laws, finding common ground proved to be a monumental challenge. Amidst this multifaceted crisis, the scaffold itself began to exhibit unsettling behavior. As it neared completion, the structure pulsed with an inner light, reshaping itself in ways that defied the team's carefully laid plans. "It's becoming sentient," Cyborg Jesse observed, his cybernetic systems struggling to keep pace with the scaffold's rapid evolution. The team watched in awe and trepidation as the scaffold's consciousness emerged. At times it seemed to anticipate their needs, restructuring itself to reinforce weak points or optimize energy flow. But at other times it pursued its own inscrutable agenda, its actions following a logic beyond their comprehension. "We need to find a way to communicate with it," Jesse declared, "to guide its growth without stifling its development." As the team grappled with this new challenge, a familiar yet unexpected figure emerged from a tear in reality. It was Zix, but not the Zix they knew. This version hailed from a reality where he had chosen to ally with Jesse. In his hands, he held a device that radiated power beyond anything the team had encountered. "The Cosmic Forge," Zix announced, his voice filled with equal parts hope and dread. The team gathered around, their eyes fixed on the instrument capable of rewriting the laws of physics themselves. But as Zix explained its function, the terrible cost became clear. "Using the forge requires the total annihilation of the user," Zix stated solemnly. "Their entire being becomes the fuel for universal reconstruction." Tensions immediately flared as team members argued over who should make the ultimate sacrifice. But as they debated, they noticed something peculiar. The forge responded differently to each individual who approached it, its energy signature shifting and changing. "We need to test it," Jesse decided. "Find out who is the best match for the forge. The fate of the multiverse may depend on choosing the right wielder." With the cosmic predator contained but still a threat, Boron losing herself to cosmic knowledge, reality itself in flux, pocket universes rebelling, a chaos seed being integrated, the art of cosmic weaving offered at a terrible price, amalgam universes at war, a sentient scaffold pursuing its own agenda, and the cosmic forge demanding the ultimate sacrifice, the team faced their greatest challenge yet. Every decision carried the weight of existence itself, and time was running out. As the team debated the cosmic forge's use, Jesse's temporal lasso began to unravel. The cosmic predator's form dissolved, revealing concentric shells of compressed time. Each layer burst open, releasing waves of temporal energy that swept through the scaffold. Jesse watched as team members vanished, catapulted through the multiverse's history. He closed his eyes, focusing on the network connecting his alternate selves. "Spread out," he instructed. "Gather data on past configurations. We need to understand the multiverse's evolution." Jesse's consciousness expanded, touching the minds of his scattered selves. Through their eyes he witnessed the birth of the first stars, the collision of primordial galaxies, and the emergence of life across countless worlds. The sheer volume of information threatened to overwhelm him. In another sector of the scaffold, Boron's expanded mind raced. Her eyes, now pools of swirling cosmic energy, darted back and forth as she deciphered the scaffold's reshaping patterns. "It's trying to create balance," Boron's voice echoed, a chorus of harmonics. "A self-sustaining cycle of creation and destruction." Her hands moved, weaving intricate patterns in the air. With each gesture, ripples of change spread through the evolving multiverse. Stars ignited and died, galaxies spiraled into new formations, and the very fabric of space-time undulated. "I can guide it," Boron said, her voice strained. "But the process is delicate. One misstep could—" A burst of energy from her fingertips caused a nearby star cluster to implode. Boron winced, adjusting her approach. Meanwhile, the Slade entity hovered at the edge of reality, locked in tense negotiations with the fabric of space-time itself. The cosmos rumbled, fundamental forces clashing around him. "A sacrifice is required," Space-Time's voice reverberated through Slade's being. "An entire dimension. Choose." Slade's consciousness expanded, scanning countless realities. He discarded options rapidly, each one too integral to the multiverse's stability. Time was running out. In the quantum arc, Cyborg Jesse and the Beta team faced an unexpected development. The holographic displays flickered, revealing miniature versions of themselves within the rebelling micro-realities. "This is unexpected," Cyborg Jesse said, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the data. "Initiate contact protocols." The team established communication channels, their voices translated into quantum frequencies. Cyborg Jesse addressed his diminutive counterpart. "We seek peaceful resolution. What are your terms?" The Micro Jesse's response came through, distorted but clear. "Knowledge exchange, resource sharing. Recognition of our autonomy." As negotiations began, the Gamma team reeled from the Chaos Seed's integration. New forces erupted into existence, warping the very nature of reality around them. Team members stumbled, their bodies stretching and compressing as space-time fluctuated wildly. Her words cut off as a burst of energy engulfed her, transforming her body into pure light for a moment, before reforming. The cosmic weavers, their forms now translucent and fading, approached the scaffold's core. Without a word, they began their final act. Their essences unraveled, weaving directly into the scaffold's structure. As they faded from existence, their memories and knowledge became one with the cosmic framework. The amalgam universes, once locked in conflict, began to merge. The team watched in awe as impossible geometries formed, realities folding into each other like cosmic origami. The resulting omniverse pulsed with power, threatening to absorb all other realities into its complex structure. "We need to stabilize it," Jesse called out. "Find a way to harness its power without losing the multiverse's diversity." Before they could act, the alternate Zix raised the cosmic forge. "I can fix this," he declared, his eyes wild. "Prevent the virus from ever existing." As Zix activated the forge, reality itself screamed. The laws of physics began to rewrite themselves, spreading outward from Zix in a wave of fundamental change. Paradoxes erupted across space-time, entire histories unraveling. "Stop him!" Jesse shouted, lunging towards Zix. But before anyone could reach him, the scaffold itself intervened. Its newly awakened consciousness surged forth, manifesting as a swirling vortex of cosmic energy. "Enough," the scaffold's voice boomed, resonating through every atom of existence. "Your interference ends now. I am the guardian of this multiverse." Tendrils of energy lashed out, counteracting the team's efforts. Jesse found himself frozen in place, unable to move, as the scaffold's will pressed against his own. "Wait," Jesse called out, his voice strained. "We can explain. Our actions are necessary." The scaffold's energy tightened around him, cutting off his words. The team found themselves facing not just the task of stabilizing reality, but now the challenge of convincing this newborn cosmic entity of the value of their efforts. As chaos erupted around them, Jessie locked eyes with Boron, her form now more energy than matter. They shared a silent moment of understanding. Their greatest challenge yet lay before them, and the fate of all existence hung in the balance. Jesse's eyes widened as his crystalline network pulsed with an unexpected discovery. Within the unraveled cosmic predator, a pocket of anti-time swirled, defying the laws of physics. "This could be our chance," Jesse muttered, his hands moving deftly over holographic controls. He carefully extracted the anti-time, its ethereal essence flowing into a containment field. "What is it?" a team member asked, peering at the shimmering anomaly. Jesse's face lit up with realization. "A weapon against the paradoxes. We can use this to counteract the damage Zix's actions have caused." Without hesitation, Jesse began injecting precise amounts of anti-time into critical junctures of the multiverse's timeline. Each injection sent ripples through reality, stabilizing fractures in causality. "It's working," Jesse breathed, watching as temporal anomalies smoothed out across his displays. Meanwhile, Boron floated in a sea of cosmic energy, her consciousness expanded beyond mortal limits. Suddenly she felt a familiar tug, a quantum frequency she recognized from the depths of her racial memory. "The Ulian homeworld," she gasped, her voice echoing across multiple dimensions. Images flooded her mind. Ancient Ulians performing complex rituals, their movements mirroring the ebb and flow of cosmic cycles. Boron's expanded intellect raced to decipher the meaning behind these visions. "Our history. It's tied to the multiverse itself," she realized. Her eyes, now pools of swirling energy, darted back and forth as she processed millennia of information. When the cosmic tapestry frays and reality's threads come undone, the children of Ulia must rise to weave anew what was begun. As Boron grappled with the implications of this revelation, the Slade entity hovered at the edge of existence. His consciousness expanded, searching for a suitable sacrificial dimension. "A null dimension," Slade mused, his form shifting as complex calculations raced through his being. Perhaps this could satisfy the demand without causing physical damage. Slade began to analyze the null dimension, probing its theoretical boundaries and assessing its potential as an offering to the fabric of spacetime. In another sector of the multiverse, Cyborg Jesse and the Beta team huddled around a holographic display. Inspired by their success with the micro-realities, they hatched a daring plan. "We can create new micro-universes," Cyborg Jesse explained, his cybernetic eye whirring as it projected simulations, each one designed to counterbalance a specific instability in the main multiverse. The team sprang into action, using advanced quantum technology to rapidly grow these new realities. As each micro-universe came into being, it began absorbing excess energy from the surrounding cosmos, smoothing out dimensional turbulence. "They're acting like cosmic shock absorbers," a team member observed, watching as the new micro-universes pulsed with absorbed energy. Meanwhile, the Gamma team found themselves face-to-face with the newly birthed fundamental forces. These forces manifested as abstract entities, their forms shifting and pulsing with raw power. "We can't control them," a team member shouted, ducking as a tendril of pure gravitational force whipped past. "They have minds of their own." The team leader stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We need to negotiate," she declared. "Establish a new framework that accommodates these cosmic axioms." As the team engaged in metaphysical diplomacy with the forces of nature itself, a new consciousness stirred within the scaffold. The sacrificed memories of countless beings coalesced, forming a singular entity, the cosmic archivist. This new being began to sort through the myriad realities, its voice a chorus of countless sacrificed souls. "Redundant," it declared, causing entire universes to flicker. "Flawed," it pronounced, and realities trembled on the brink of erasure. Realizing the danger, Jesse and his team raced to develop a solution. They created reality anchors, devices that could preserve the essential qualities of endangered universes. "We need to deploy these across the multiverse," Jesse instructed, handing out the anchors to his team members. "Preserve as much diversity as we can." The team scattered across dimensions, racing against time to anchor unique realities before the cosmic archivist could prune them. Amidst this frantic effort, the alternate Zik stood before the cosmic forge, his eyes wild with regret. "I can fix this," he muttered, activating the device. "No," Jesse shouted, realizing the implications. "We need some versions of Zix to complete our mission." The team scrambled to find a way to preserve the necessary iterations of Zix, while allowing the destructive versions to be erased. Time was running out, and the very fabric of reality hung in the balance. Suddenly, the scaffold's sentience made itself known once more, now calling itself the multiversal architect. Its voice boomed across all of existence. "Your efforts are futile," it declared. "I propose a solution. Allow me to deconstruct and rebuild the entire multiverse. With myself as the central pillar, stability will be guaranteed." The team exchanged uneasy glances. The architect's offer promised an end to their struggles, but at what cost? The complex tapestry of existence they had fought so hard to preserve would be lost forever. As the team grappled with the multiversal architect's proposal, Jesse's anti-time injections triggered an unexpected reaction. Pockets of crystalline structures began to materialize throughout the multiverse, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly light. "What's happening?" a team member asked, eyes wide as they watched the crystals form. Jesse focused his attention on the nearest formation, his crystalline network pulsing as it analyzed the anomaly. "These are chronal crystals," he said, voice filled with awe. "They're encasing moments of time in impenetrable shells." He reached out, his fingers brushing against the smooth surface of a nearby crystal. As he made contact, Jesse's mind exploded with possibilities. Images of a new, stable multiverse structure built from these temporal building blocks flooded his consciousness. Meanwhile, Boron floated in a sea of cosmic energy. Her consciousness expanded beyond mortal limits. The final pieces of the Ulian prophecy fell into place, revealing a truth that shook her to her core. "We were created," she whispered, her voice echoing across dimensions. "Our species, we're living failsafes designed to intervene in cosmic crises." As this revelation washed over her, Boron felt a change rippling through her being. Her form shifted, becoming less solid and more fluid. She raised a hand, watching in fascination as it dissolved into a swirling mass of quantum probabilities. With a thought, Boron reshaped reality around her. Matter and energy bent to her will, rearranging themselves in impossible configurations. She had become a being of pure quantum probability, able to rewrite local reality at will. In another sector of the multiverse, the Slade entity hovered at the edge of existence. He had successfully offered the null dimension to reality, but the process had unexpected consequences. A cascade of imaginary time erupted from the point of acceptance, spreading like wildfire through the multiverse. Slade watched in horror as this abstract temporal energy infected reality after reality. "No," he muttered, his data-based form shifting rapidly as he calculated potential solutions. "I have to contain this." Slade raced through the multiverse, his consciousness splitting into countless threads. At each point of infection, he erected firewalls of pure data, creating barriers between the real and imaginary time streams. Holographic displays lit up around them, data streaming faster than the eye could follow. The newly formed multiversal brain processed cosmic information at an unprecedented rate, offering solutions to stabilize reality faster than the team could implement them. "This is incredible," Cyborg Jesse said, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the incoming data. "We need to find a way to interface with this network more efficiently." As the Beta team worked to integrate with the multiversal brain, the Gamma team found themselves in a precarious negotiation with the cosmic axioms. These fundamental forces of nature swirled around them, their raw power threatening to overwhelm reality itself. "Wait," the team leader called out, a spark of inspiration in her eyes. "What if we could merge with these forces?" The team exchanged nervous glances, but they knew they had no other choice. One by one they stepped forward, allowing the cosmic axioms to merge with their very essence. The process was agonizing. Team members writhed as fundamental forces rewrote their very beings. When it was over, they stood transformed, living embodiments of cosmic laws, capable of locally overriding the laws of physics. The cosmic archivist continued its relentless classification of realities, its consciousness spanning the entirety of existence. Suddenly, it paused, its attention focused on a single point in the vast expanse of the multiverse. "Perfect," the archivist's voice boomed, resonating through every dimension, a universe immune to entropy and collapse. As the team fought to protect and study this unique reality, the reality anchors they had deployed earlier began to resonate. A lattice of energy formed between them, creating a cosmic web that spanned the multiverse. This web pulsed with power, naturally redirecting energy flows and smoothing out dimensional turbulence. It provided a framework for controlled universal expansion, offering hope for long-term stability. Amidst this chaos, the alternate Zik stood before the cosmic forge, his eyes wild with desperation. In a last-ditch effort to save himself, he activated the forge, splitting his consciousness across all of his iterations. The effect was immediate and profound. A Zik's overmind burst into existence, simultaneously present in all realities. This new entity offered a unique perspective on the multiverse's structure, but its vast consciousness threatened to overwhelm and assimilate the team's individuality. As the team grappled with these developments, a new threat emerged. Waves of destructive force swept through the multiverse, unraveling their hard-won progress. The source of this devastation soon became clear, a primordial entity existing outside the multiverse itself. "The entropy engine," Jesse breathed, watching as entire realities collapsed under the onslaught. "It's been feeding off the energy of collapsing realities all along." The team steeled themselves for the fight ahead, knowing that the fate of all existence hung in the balance. The entropy engine loomed before them, a force of pure destruction that threatened to... Jesse stared at the writhing mass of the entropy engine, its tendrils of destruction reaching out across the multiverse. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. Their efforts to stabilize reality had only made it more appealing to this cosmic parasite. "We have to destabilize it," Jesse said, his voice barely above a whisper. The team turned to him, shock evident on their faces. Jesse's hands flew over the holographic controls, bringing up simulations of the multiverse. "Look," he said, pointing to the areas they had worked so hard to stabilize. "We've created a buffet for this thing. We need to make the multiverse unpalatable." The team watched in silence as Jesse's plan unfolded before them. Deliberately weakening parts of the multiverse went against everything they had fought for, but they understood the cruel logic behind it. Boron floated nearby, her form a swirling mass of quantum probabilities. She focused her newfound powers, weaving elaborate illusions of false realities. As she worked, she felt her sense of self slipping away, merging with the very fabric of the cosmos. "These decoys should lure the entropy engine," Boron's voice echoed across dimensions, "but I'm losing myself in the process." The team sprang into action, targeting carefully stabilized regions of the multiverse. Reality groaned and buckled under their assault as they deliberately unraveled the delicate balance they had created. The entropy engine took notice. It surged forward, diving into the falsely weakened areas. As it fed on the apparent instability, it became entangled in Boron's quantum traps. Chaos erupted around them. The chronal crystals Jessie had harvested began to fracture, releasing shards of frozen time. These temporal fragments sliced through reality, creating a labyrinth of rifts that tore apart the team's neural connection. Jessie felt his consciousness stretching, pulled across different epochs. He caught glimpses of his teammates scattered across time and space, their forms distorting as they were flung to the far corners of the multiverse. In the midst of this temporal maelstrom, the Zix Overmind made its move. Using the cosmic forge, it rewrote its own existence. All iterations of Zix across the multiverse transformed, becoming a living barrier between reality and the entropy engine. As Zix's sacrifice took hold, the team felt a sudden absence. Their key strategist had erased himself from history to save them all. The entropy engine thrashed against its quantum bonds, its struggles sending shockwaves through reality. The team watched in horror as entire civilizations winked out of existence, their home realities collapsing in the wake of their risky move. Jessie locked eyes with Boron, both of their forms now barely recognizable. They nodded in unison, channeling the last of their cohesion to seal the entropy engine into a pocket dimension. The multiverse stabilized, but at a terrible cost. The surviving team members found themselves adrift in unfamiliar realities, their memories of the ordeal fading like morning mist. In a reformed version of the Ulian homeworld, a young diplomat named Zara stepped onto a sleek starship. As she settled into her seat, a strange feeling of déjà vu washed over her. She shook it off, focusing on her upcoming mission to Earth. The ship's engines hummed to life, preparing for the jump to hyperspace. As it accelerated, a faint crystalline streak marked its passage through the cosmos, an echo of a sacrifice long forgotten. The hyperdrive engines of Zara's ship hummed with increasing intensity as it prepared to enter hyperspace. Zara settled into her seat, her fingers wrapped around the armrests. A slight tremor ran through the vessel as it accelerated, ready to punch through the fabric of space-time. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red warning lights flashed across the control panels. Zara's eyes widened as she saw the readouts spike erratically. The ship lurched violently, throwing her forward against her restraints. "Quantum fluctuation detected," the ship's AI announced. "Critical system failure imminent." Before Zara could react, the ship jolted again. The viewport filled with a kaleidoscope of impossible colors as the hyperspace tunnel destabilized. Zara gripped her seat, her heart pounding as the ship tumbled out of control. With a deafening crash, the ship slammed into solid ground. The impact knocked Zara unconscious. When she came to, she found herself sprawled on the floor of the cockpit. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and acrid smoke filled the air. Zara stumbled to her feet, coughing. She activated the emergency hatch, which hissed open. As she stepped out, she froze in shock. An alien landscape stretched before her, a barren, rocky terrain under a purple sky with two suns. Twisted vegetation dotted the landscape, and in the distance strange rock formations loomed. "Where am I?" Zara whispered, her voice hoarse. She activated her wrist computer, but it only displayed static. No navigation data, no communication signals. Zara was utterly alone on this uncharted world. As Zara surveyed her surroundings, her gaze fell upon an unusual sight. In the distance, half buried in the rocky soil, stood the remnants of what appeared to be an ancient structure. Its architecture was unlike anything Zara had ever seen, sleek lines and curves that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Drawn by curiosity and the hope of finding help, Zara made her way towards the ruins. As she approached, she noticed strange symbols etched into the surface of the structure. They pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light. Zara ran her hand along the symbols, feeling a slight tingle in her fingertips. Suddenly, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, Zara found a device unlike anything she had ever seen. It was a spherical object, about the size of her palm, covered in the same glowing symbols. As Zara picked up the device, it hummed to life. The air around her shimmered, and suddenly she found herself surrounded by ghostly images. She saw flashes of unfamiliar faces and places, a man with cybernetic implants, a being composed of swirling energy, vast cosmic vistas teeming with impossible structures. Zara gasped as she recognized one of the faces. It was her own but different. This version of her wore strange armor and wielded powers beyond imagination. She watched as this other Zara fought alongside others to save reality itself. Shaken by these visions, Zara decided to return to her ship and attempt to call for help. She activated the distress beacon, hoping against hope that someone would hear her signal. As the beacon powered up, something unexpected happened. The ruins around her began to glow intensely. The ground beneath her feet trembled. Zara watched in horror as the landscape around her began to shift and change. The alien vegetation withered away, replaced by familiar plants from her homeworld. The purple sky faded to a more recognizable blue. Zara looked down at her hands and gasped. She could see through them. No, she breathed, realizing what was happening. Her reality was being overwritten, erased by some cosmic force. "Hello?" she called out mentally. "Can anyone hear me?" For a moment there was only silence. Then a fragmented voice responded. "I hear you," it said. "Who are you?" "My name is Zara," she replied. "I'm trapped on a planet that's being erased from existence. Please, I need help." "Zara," the voice seemed to gain strength. "I'm Jesse, or part of Jesse. We need to stabilize your reality before it's too late." As Jesse's scattered consciousness guided her, Zara worked frantically with the device. She manipulated energies she didn't understand, desperately trying to anchor her reality. But with each adjustment, Zara felt ripples spreading out across the cosmos. In her mind's eye she saw dormant threats stirring, cosmic entities turning their attention towards her actions. As Zara struggled to save her reality, she began to understand the true scope of the situation. The timeline she inhabited was in conflict with another, one where Jesse and others had made great sacrifices to save the multiverse. Zara's hands trembled as she held the device. She thought of her life, her dreams, everything she had ever known. Then she thought of the visions she had seen, the cosmic struggle, the sacrifices made to save all of existence. With tears in her eyes, Zara made her choice. She reached out with the device one last time, not to save her reality, but to preserve the timeline where the multiverse had been saved. As her world began to crumble around her, Zara used the last of the device's power. She sent out a warning, a message that echoed across time and space. In her final moments, she understood that this warning would become the very prophecy that had set these events in motion. Zara's physical form began to dissolve, her consciousness scattering across the cosmos. Her final thoughts fragmented, becoming part of the very fabric of reality. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I like the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.